Wrestling fans, welcome to the latest installment of the High Spot Shoot interview series. It is our pleasure to have with us today Erik Watts, former WCW standout as a rookie, TNA, WWE, someone that has been pretty much everywhere in the industry and has a very unique perspective, growing up the son of one of the most influential and famous promoters ever in wrestling. And Erik, I guess that'd be the place to start, is tell us about your childhood and growing up around the business.
That would take a whole other interview, but I'll try to put as much in perspective as possible. Just growing up, the house was, it was just all wrestling, Bill Watts. He was on the road a lot, of course, but our lives did circulate around wrestling, and just seeing from his genius was amazing. Because from my perspective, wrestling, I saw it in a different light. I saw it from marketing to management to advertising to something as simple as putting up the ring, or seeing some of the poor people that thought they wanted to try out and were a little bit of smart alecks, and seeing people get beat up, really bad, to the point where you're, at some of those tryouts and you go, whoa, please stop. I don't know if it's been told, but there was a pretty close one with my dad where he beat a guy so bad that we were hoping he made it, And it had nothing to do. These guys signed waivers and they understood what they were going to get into. But back then it was a different world. It was a different life, more territories. I know it sounds crazy, but it was a more real wrestling, But other than that, all my friends and all that, I thought I had a pretty sane life until I look back at it, And you look back at the fact that we had security gates and 24-hour police patrols around our house a lot of times, metal detectors for packages, people trying to abduct one of us out of school or not out of school, house shot up, learning. We had dog trainer near the house with rots and German shepherds and things like that, because back then it was a little bit like you took care of your own business. So if someone was pouting or someone was mad in another territory or from another place, or jealousy, anger, they came at you. They didn't just talk about it in an interview or call you up and say, hey, I don't like you. A lot of times they send out people to take care of stuff. So it was kind of a wild ride. Truly blessed. Don't get me wrong. My dad was a pilot. We had our own airport, and he flew, so I got to see some great things. And people ask me, like my kids ask me, Dad, what was your favorite thing? I don't know. Got to go skiing, got to go diving, and did all that. But that's the fluff. The tough spot is that Bill Watts, I used to say, as tough as he was in the dressing room, he was 10 times tougher at home. He had very high expectations. You hear about the bad of the Von Erichs, but the discipline there. It's kind of weird. You say, well, the kids weren't disciplined, but the dad was very hard. He was a really hard. He expected the best and the most out of you, and my father expected none less. It was pins and needles most all the time around him, and still is to this day. He's just. I think he's one of the best. I'm a fan of his. People say, who's your favorite wrestler? I say Bill Watts, but I guess that's jaded, right? But in a nutshell, as much as possible, it was neat. It was fun. But wrestling was our life. It was our business. Like I tell people, wrestling put food on my table, and they put food on my kids' table. And it's all I've ever wanted to do. So I know I didn't answer the question exactly the way you want to, like stories or what have you. I could go on forever. How I met, how I met Magnum TA, or these guys came down to the house, throwing the disc and shot and javelin with Kerry Von Erich, out on our farm, or my dad making me arm wrestle someone. Hey, we got this new guy. He's a Florida arm wrestling champion, Paul Orndorff. That's how I met him. Me and my friends were out. Had a whole bunch of friends out, hung out. That's where our arcade was also in the gym. So we were all hanging out. It was about 2 a.m. My dad goes, hey, got this new guy, Paul Orndorff, he's a Florida arm wrestling champion. And I had to arm wrestle him. Look, I think he threw me over the pinball machine. I was 14. He snapped me like a twig, or how cool it was that, in third grade, I wanted to take Andre the Giant to show and tell. So I took him. I mean, he came, and it was the coolest show and tell ever. You know, I mean, for him to take his ring off, like my bull ring, and we take a silver dollar and stick it through there. I mean, that's massive. That's huge. Hanging out at the house and having him sit there and talk with my dad and eat, 7 T-bone steaks. I think they still had, they had an article once where I believe, don't hold me to this, but it was close. He ate 7 steaks, 100 and something beers, Coors Lights, and a 5th of Jack Daniels. And they had it actually, I believe, in the Tulsa World, because my dad said, I'll take you out to eat, I'll buy. Did he regret that? That was awesome. Or the time, Junkyard Dog came out and my dad gave him the Mercedes for a bonus. And that's the same Mercedes that Junkyard died in. And matter of fact, the week before that trip, he said, he gave me my first nickname, Slick Slim. And that's why, like Tommy Rogers and Bobby Eaton and all those guys, when they see me, hey, Slick, what's up, Slick Slim? And he gave me his boots. Junkyard Dog said, I always wanted to give you that. And that was a pair of boots right before the last trip he went on when he died. So it's story after story about great things and awesome things that I got to see. And but there was a lot of bad stuff, I mean, you get to see the road of wrestling, and I spent many a nights waiting for my old man and Dusty Rhodes, and that's how me and Dustin got to know each other. Hanging out in the arenas. One of the worst things that ever happened to me, people would ask me, they asked me why I don't drink coffee to this day. And I'm like, well, I just, not much on coffee. And the truth of it is, me and Dustin were hanging out. We're sitting there, just kids. And he goes, you ever try coffee? Now, think about it. You're 12, 13 years old. You're thinking, ooh, coffee, this is horrible. We're trying an adult drink. So he said, I bet the concession stand's still open. Let's go. So we run up to the concession stand. It's closed. On the way back, we're hopping down the steps, and he goes, oh, man. He goes, look, a cup of coffee. Doesn't even look like he drank out of it, man. We're kids back then. He goes, let's try a drink. So he hands it to me, and I take a swig of it. And I go, oh, God, that is horrible. It's the worst tasting crap. That's horrible. And Dustin's like, well, then I'm not going to try it. What are you talking about? Well, about 10 minutes later, I'm dizzy. And I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm like, God, that's the worst thing in the world. To this day, or until, not this day, but until high school, graduation, I did not know that was not coffee until I tried my first dip of Skull. So, even though I know it wasn't coffee and that I drank someone's skull spit, it left a memory in my mind that I don't like either. Thank you, Dustin, jackass. But minus that, I mean, there's a lot of great memories,
You mentioned the Von Erichs and you mentioned Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
Does a kinship kind of develop with, say, people of that kind of the second generation, not even in the business, but just as kids hanging around the arenas? What kind of relationships are formed there?
Automatically. I mean, and it's unspoken. Bobby Eaton came up to me just on this trip, and I met his son. And it's just different. The handshake and the hug you give, it is automatically you feel like family, like you're responsible. Lacey Von Erich, I just met her this time, automatically you feel like you have something, like a hidden, like a secret that everyone, you all know and no one else knows. And I think it has to do with knowing what it's like for your family to be on the road, knowing what your dad went through, knowing what the dues they paid, the love of wrestling, the hurt of wrestling, the excitement, Dustin, as soon as I met him, brothers, Barry Windham, brothers, I can go on and on again, but also it helped me. Like when I went to WWF, I had never met Brad, but I always watched these matches and Owen's matches, and I thought some of the best wrestlers ever. Matter of fact, I was with my dad when Brett wrestled Davey Boy. It was me, my dad, Jim Ross, and Missy Hyatt were sitting out, and we were watching the pay-per-view. And I remember my dad, we watched the whole pay-per-view, and he goes, that's a stud. I think today that's the best wrestler in the business. He said not only can he have a match, but Davey Boy is good at best, and he had a phenomenal match. And that's not a dig at Davey Boy, but you wouldn't think that putting those two together, like some people might have questioned Shawn Michaels and Undertaker at the last WrestleMania. Oh, it's going to be a great match. Taker's over, Michaels is awesome, but I think they stole the show. By far stole the show, hands down. I feel like Brett actually did the same. And it wasn't until I was in Canada on a trip, and Brett invited me and Jeff Jarrett went to Brett's house, hung out, and had a few drinks after we'd been out. And whoever cooks, Brett, don't take this wrong, cook the steak. Cook it. He's like, you hungry? And I think he just went right to the refrigerator and threw it on my plate. Like, excellent. Never had it purple. Having drinks, and to the point in which I was like ditching them into the flowers, you know. And believe it or not, went downstairs, beautiful indoor pool and everything like this, 3, 4 in the morning. And I said, what's your favorite match? And he actually said, not that it's his favorite, but he was very, very proud of, it's weird he said that, the Bulldog Hart match. I think it was in Wembley Stadium. Mm-hmm. It was phenomenal. And so I didn't have to have him go into it, but maybe he had the same thoughts as my father. But while I was there, he didn't take me aside and say, hey, come riding with me, come do this. But he would say, hey, you want to go work out sometimes? If I wanted to go to the ring, he would take me to the ring. What have you. It was an automatic, understood, nothing had to be said, like we're brothers. God forbid, the Nasty Boys, for some reason, they took me in. And I wish they didn't, but they did. And it's the same thing, you know. And I can go on and on and on. But yes, there is something there about second generation that you share, and no one else can understand, and no one else knows, and you just feel it, and it's really cool.
Do you remember roughly when you started going to the matches, and what your earliest memories of Mid-South Wrestling were?
Oh no, I mean, I was going young. I mean, when I say young, I mean my mom didn't go to the matches often, due to that's just this old school. I mean, if you're the promoter and you say don't bring your girlfriends to the matches or wives, then I guess the best example of that would be the promoter. So, but we ride down with our dad quite often and come back. I did put up the rings, tore them down, sold T-shirts, turned the lights on and off, played the music for the entrances, even on the TVs, you know, and my dad had a special staging of how you went, all the way to going and checking security. There's people letting people in free, and how you explained it to them, and if you felt that they didn't understand it, you fire them. I mean, you know, that's kind of hard, I guess, for an event staff person to come up and have a 13-year-old fire you. But if they didn't have a good answer to, can I ask you something? Do you mind if I bring about 10 of my friends over to your house tonight, order what I want to order, make you cook it and pay for it? Most people said, no, I wouldn't do that. Go, great. Then why'd you take 10 meals out of my family's pocket? Well, but it's different. Yeah, it is different. So is this. The difference is you're not working here anymore. Bye. And sometimes you fired someone that worked from other companies. You know, I mean, staffing companies. They didn't understand it. And they sure didn't want to hear it from a 12, 13, 14-year-old. But the ethics and morals and the business that I learned, it wouldn't matter whether it came from me or my father. Well, no, it wouldn't matter if it came from my father, because he probably would have introduced him to the door. That was respect. That's how I was taught. That's why, you know, I guess I hate thieves, I hate stealing, I hate liars, you know. It's just, it is what it is. And my dad had everything to put it in perspective, you know. Because look, how many times have you ever thought about opening the exit door and letting someone in the movies? Or getting someone in free to a rock concert? Or taking a camera in where they tell you not to take a camera in and you take pictures, especially with eBay now. And you know what your idea is. Those people work hard. The movie people make their money. That's why I can't stand pirating. Matter of fact, I had an issue with the guy this weekend. Why do you want to sell the UWF library tapes or Mid-South tapes? You don't own them. Did you not read the warning? The greatest thing about it is with the warnings, I don't have to sue you or get in trouble. FBI. They'll call you. Oh, well, we'll float under the radar. Sure you will, unless you mess with someone that knows someone of authority. You know, and I was the director of authority at TNA, so by golly, I know. Point being is that, you know, it irked me. You know, it irked me that they were selling it because, you know, while we own the library, why do you want to come out? Why don't you call us and ask us if we can make you a deal to distribute or be an affiliate of our program? Why do you want to run it that way? I just feel I don't have pity for those people. I don't have pity for people that steal and take from others. And those are things we were raised with and stayed with us. You know, so it was wild. The difference between our family, Von Erich's another other people were that we had an agreement. I could not step into the ring and or work out on a professional level. Amateur level, with my wrestling background, I got to work out with a lot of wrestlers, okay? But professionally, I couldn't walk in until I had a degree. So that's actually how WCW happened. I wasn't coming to WCW to wrestle. I went down there because I was so excited. I'd gotten my degree in 3 years, and I had some time off between my next classes. I was 9 hours. I had 3 classes left to finish my master's. And I called and asked if I could go work out at Jody Hamilton's school, which was not the power plant. It was not the nice, lavish place. It was 2 rings in the back of a warehouse at about 110 degrees, and they had a really mean guy named Sarge, that was 2 feet tall and purple, I think, and was mad at the world. That's who I met. And I went down there to train, and I think I spent 23 days down there, and I'm awesome. Packed my bags, left. On the way back, I got a call from Dusty, and he asked me if I'd wrestle at 3 towns: Franklin, Tennessee, Nashville, and Knoxville, I believe it were. And I said, I don't have anything. I didn't plan on wrestling. Plus, who jumps in the ring after 23 days? All that, hey, but your dad wrestled. Yeah, he wrestled. Exactly. For how many years? When did you see him? This isn't just something you just pick up overnight. How many wrestlers do you know? What's the average? In a year and a half that you're in the ring just to kind of catch on and then be made fun of? So I had some football tights, football pants, cut them off. I had my Fiesta Bowl jersey from winning the Fiesta Bowl, put it on, and showed up in Franklin. Went in the locker room, was immediately thrown out by Rick Steiner, said that you don't deserve, rookies like you don't deserve to get dressed here. So I got dressed in the concession stand, and the popcorn did smell good. But I had to put a towel. People were coming up buying popcorn, and they're like, why is this guy getting naked in the concession stand? Did my 3-day run there, packed my stuff, was headed to Louisville, and Dusty Rhodes called me and said that they'd had an independent evaluation team on me, and that would I be interested in wrestling for WCW. And I was totally taken back by it. I was like, yeah, man, I got to go finish my school. He goes, really? He goes, how's a master's degree going to help you here? I go, well, he goes, well, come in and talk to me. Then we talked to me, and we laid it all out. It made sense. And that's how I started wrestling. And I believe I came into Atlanta, I think it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I came into Atlanta, talked to Dusty on a Thursday, and then I wrestled the next day for the Saturday night WCW. So my 4th match ever was on TV. Of course, it was a push. It was a whatever. Get over it. I critique myself harder than any fan did. But I have to put in perspective when I see the match, 23 days. The next match that I saw 2 weeks later on TV, maybe 30 days. And it is what it is. I think that I did well for the time given and what I understand and where I was at. And plus the pressure. It wasn't easy. It's never easy. It wasn't easy for Dustin, Barry, or any of them. And I didn't want it to be easy, but it was brutal. It was wild.
So you're talking about having dealings on a professional level with Dusty. What was your dad's reaction to all this? What role did he play in facilitating the deal? Or did you come to him and tell him that Dusty had facilitated the deal? Or
well, I'm not going to act like the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing, and that's even unfair because I don't think Dusty and my dad were ever on equal levels at WCW. Matter of fact, from what I understand, when my dad was coming in, part of the deal was they were getting ready to get rid of Dusty Rhodes. And when my dad came in, he actually stood up and said, "You're absolutely not getting rid of Dusty Rhodes." So I'm sure Dusty was saying, "Hey, we're putting a watch on him, and we're seeing things." And Dusty has got an unbelievable mind. So I think that he also started pairing the fact that here's Barry Windham, here's Dustin Rhodes. I thought they were a very good tag team. How could another second generation, play into this? Way before second generations were being played, like at WWE now, and they did it with me at TNA. He had a great angle on it and brought it in. So I think, though, my dad let him make the evaluation, which to this day I've really not asked, but it was an evaluation and a contract made out by Dusty. I remember there was so much heat because in college I'd done pretty well for myself anyway, and in college, my first year in college, I bought a 944 Turbo Porsche and blacked out windows and everything. It was so hilarious to see how bad, or the jealousy, that it was in the dirt sheets that part of my signing bonus was a brand new Porsche. Well, first of all, idiot, for a 4-year-old Porsche, what'd they do? Hey, listen, this kid's awesome. He's fantastic. He's a second generation. Hey, Erik, and we're going to give you, for a signing bonus, any 4-year-old Porsche you want. I mean, if you're going to drop the bank, drop it on a new one. So my dad got so ticked about some of the things that were said in the locker room that my dad actually posted my contract on the locker room, the door. Said anyone that thinks that he's making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 and that he's got a golden spoon, put it on the door. Boom, stabbed it on the door and said, read it. But you know what? My dad's so genius that he probably played it in his benefit. I guess probably when some of the guys came up for negotiations, he said, oh, yeah, well, guess what he's making? My own son is making this. And you want how much? You know? Because I think people were pretty surprised. I mean, because everyone, before I came, everyone was basically on the same contract, they told me. It was something like, you got $90,000, then $150,000, and the next year you went to $225,000 for the majority of your people, And my first year contract was a $68,000 contract, in which I know when I did my taxes at the end of the year, my road expense was around $23,400. So, but I loved it. I loved it, but you think about it, all that you go for a profit of $45,000 before you're paying your own expenses at home and stuff, just your road expenses. I wouldn't say that I was living lavishly.
Who was the most helpful to you starting out at WCW?
Well, by far, no, it was just too many. Remember when you said second generation? Man, Greg Gagne. Because how I became best friends with Dallas Page was because every day that I had off, I went to the school. Every day. I think I wrestled 307 days my first year. 307 my first day and 315 my second year. Every day that wasn't a Saturday, Sunday, school's open, I was there. The only other person I ever saw was Dallas Page. But what was awesome, Graham, Gagne, my Graham, Gagne would show up. Hiro Matsuda would show up. On the road, I didn't know any better. My dad always said, get by the best and learn from them. So, me being young and dumb, I went to Harley. Harley, would you train me? Sure, kid. Vader couldn't stand it. You stupid greenhorn. Do you not understand I ride with Vader? Therefore, I got to get up earlier and all that just to watch your dumb ass go and work out with Harley. And then before I knew it, he was getting in the ring. It's just like Tony Sinclair in Germany, which for America, Tony Sinclair is like a Bret Hart. One of the most unbelievable wrestlers, Franz Schumann, Dave Taylor. These guys, when I went over to wrestle in Germany, I just went to St. Clair and said, would you train with me? And people were like, are you ribbing? No, I'm not here just to perform. I want to learn. So when you say who was the most, I don't think that I could say there was anyone more influential in my career than there was one person always there, and it was Jody Hamilton. Because he always took the time. And I always had the respect from him and to him because I watched him all growing up. And so he was like my coach. He nurtured my career. But man, I had... If I went on and on and on about the people that I was lucky enough that would take their time to work with me, you wouldn't believe it. It was just a list. And I think most of the list was for me coming up to guys and saying, hey, tomorrow, would you show up at the building early and work out with me?
On the flip side of that, who seemed the most resentful of you being there?
Are you kidding? Everybody? Oh, man, it doesn't stop. Just name them. Rude and... everybody. When you walked in the locker room, there was just people were mad, and it could have been from the fact that my dad hammered us every one of us, fined every one of us. Me too. I mean, I was one of the guys that wanted to stand up and say, well, why would you fine us for being late? And it's the same fine for everybody. You mean to me, Mr. $68,000 gets the same fine as Sting if he's late? And I'm not saying Sting was late, but I'm just saying, does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me. $400 or $500 is not the same to me as it is to Stings, Steiners, Lugers, and so forth and so on. So, I mean, the equality there, but it was the principle. Late, you're getting fined. So there were things that I didn't actually agree with or like, but then again, you don't do that when you're an athlete. My coach, there's a lot of things I didn't like, but the one thing it is, I bought into it, I trusted it, I believed it. I didn't vote for this president, but I back him because he's the president of our country, the United States. Same thing with Howard Schnellenberger, my coach. Same thing as Bill Watts. Same thing as when I worked for Vince McMahon. Same thing as I worked for Paul E. Same thing. Paul E., you think that I might have had some questions about how he ran business? Yeah. But my deal was to shut up. Heat-wise, was everybody. I mean, there were some people that were super cool. Ron Simmons and Sting and some of the guys that knew me since I was 10, 11, 12 years old. You know, they just didn't say anything. But I always knew if I had to go talk to someone, I could go talk to any of those guys. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say. Rude was the one that blew up into something, per se. You know, I actually had to get confrontational with him. So
I was going to ask about that. The story that kind of gets circulated is that your dad kind of had a hand in kind of pitting you against each other. Like, why don't you try Erik? What are your memories of kind of the confrontation with Rude?
Well, I hate to say it. Let me ask you, what did you hear that happened?
The story that gets circulated a lot is Rude was blowing up, as you put it, and you know, basically saying that you didn't deserve to be there, or whatever Rude was saying, and
right.
Watt said to try him and see if he deserves to be here or not. Is the story that kind of gets circulated.
What did you hear happened?
You stretched him.
Okay.
Is the story that it gets circulated.
Right. No,
I'm sure there's variations.
No. Listen. Someone told me that there's a book called Lies, Tapes, Wrestling, or something like that, a book, you know, and a lot of times people go, oh, you're in Ole's book, or you're in so-and-so's book, or you're in so-and-so. I don't know, you know, but I do know the incident you're talking about. In wrestling, I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, you were green for 5 years, period. I mean, I loved it when I heard someone saying to me that Vince is going back to making the young guys, when they go to the shows, the young guys are to clean up the dressing room, the tape off the floors, the bottles, and all this other stuff. Okay. I mean, back in the day, you had to fetch the beer, sit in the back of the car, put the beer in the cooler, make sure that everyone was happy. You had to go get the bags. You had to carry the bags to the airport. You had to go check people out. You had to pull up the car, the rental car. You had to go in and buy the food. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you did. I don't know how long I was there, about a year, 2 years. I can't remember. I think it was in Charlotte. End of a long road trip. All the guys were there. Everybody. Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, Sting, Vader, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the whole crew. All your big guys. And I actually had a match that night with Steve Austin. And I went in the dressing room, and I hear Rude. Yeah, me and Henning, we're best friends. I don't know if you guys know that, but we're best friends. Everyone knew they were best friends. And Henning was a great amateur wrestler, but I was a Golden Glove boxer. And we really didn't ever really go at it, but we'd get drunk and we'd hang out. And I remember when Henning, couldn't turn me, and which means, if you get on all fours, couldn't turn him over. And I mean, I'd just been listening to this, and the road had been brutal. The heat from the guys. People were mad anyway, and I was sitting there in my dressed outfit, and he was in like slacks and a shirt, and I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting in my locker, and I got Tourette's. I just did. And half of it had to do with, remember you talking about second generation? I don't even know Henning. Never met Henning, but I feel like he's a brother of mine. Number two, you don't talk about other people that you know were stud amateur wrestlers, because I just have a theory about that, and boxers and many other people, okay? So I'm sitting there listening to him, and I go, well, He must have sucked as a wrestler then, being an amateur wrestler. All of a sudden, Rude turns, and I go, oh, God. So now I'm sitting in the locker. Here I come, and everyone's talking, and they just shut up and they stare. And he comes over, he goes, you got something to say? I go, you know what, no, I don't, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, I didn't mean to say anything. I don't even know Henning. I said, I don't know you really. I said, I'm sorry. He goes, you ought to be sorry. You know, you don't talk about my best friend. I said, you're talking about your best friend. That he couldn't turn you in that. You're a boxer. You're a stud. Everyone knows you can fight. Because I mean, he was known as an animal in the streets. And he said, well, I don't think you have anything to say. And he's looking, and all the boys are coming in. Boys are coming in from outside. They're getting amped up. And I'm just sitting there, and I got my head down. And at this time now, I'm contemplating. If he gets close enough to me, do I beat his brains out? Or try, however you want to say it respectfully. Or do I let this go? Or if I keep my head down low enough, is he going to nail me? I'd nailed him. I mean, fighting, there are no rules. So I'm sitting there listening. And as I peeked up, I caught, of all people, Sting's eye. And Sting is the politician, the peacekeeper, the man. And so I thought I was going to see Sting going, oh, gosh, what'd you do? And Sting goes, no more, bro. No more. Let it go. And as soon as he said that, I just popped up. I said, you got a problem? And Sting jumps in. And Sting said, well, let's see if he can turn you. And Rude goes, yeah, takes off. He's jacked, built up, He said, yeah, why don't you try me, boy? And I said, whatever you want, man. That's up to you. Go ahead. So he gets on all fours. Sting goes, all right, I'll be the ref. Ready? Go. Well, as soon as he said go, I just take him and dump him head first in the cement. Now, we're on a cement floor. And he just, boom, and you can just tell he's kind of dinged, man. He wasn't feeling good, put it that way. And my adrenaline just slammed him. So, but he pops back up and he goes, I wasn't ready. I thought you were going to say 1, 2, 3. I thought he was going 1, 2, 3, go. And Sting goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who do we appreciate? What do you want me to say? You say it. And 1, 2, 3. Do 1, 2, 3. So Rude gets back down, and he goes, all right, ready? And I go to grab him. And Sting goes, 1, 2, 3, go. And Rude goes to stand up, and I just take him and toss him. And I think that's the time when I tossed him, he separated his shoulder. And so now you can tell his shoulder's leaning, and he's feeling really woozy, I said, well, is there anything else you want to try there, stud? Now I'm a little worked up about the whole thing. And so I said, why don't I go freestyle? Freestyle, since you know so much, once you get on all fours, I'll just put my hands in the middle of your back. I'm going to stand up. See if you can't get up. He goes, well, the reason you got me was because the first time I wasn't ready, and the second time I thought I'd stand up, but I shouldn't stand up because the contest has turned me over. I said, do whatever you want, brother. And so at that time, that's when I took it a little bit further and choked him out and did some other stuff. And then that's when Sting thought he had enough. And it was kind of embarrassing. I shouldn't have done what I did. But then I was in a hallway, and I was on the phone, and I was talking, and out of nowhere, someone comes up and pulls me by the waist and picks me up while I'm on the phone. He goes, what would you do now in a dark alley? I said, hold on just a second. And it was easy. I just put my hand in, switched him, slammed him. And it was just me and him, slammed him in a pole a little bit and said, I do a lot more than this. You got a fucking problem with it? And he goes, no problems here. And from what I understand, he walked outside, and the first guy that came in, there was a guy that was coming in talking trash. He hit the guy in the mouth and split his palate open and got sued for I don't know how much. And after that, he was cool with me. He said, you cost me X number of dollars. And I said, I didn't cost you anything. He goes, yeah, you're a good kid. And then he started letting me into the world of Rick Rude and wrestling. So in a weird way, how the wrestling world's so awesome, it can be corrupt and then all of a sudden turn awesome. Here's a guy that probably didn't like my dad, had worked for him before, was mad at him, thought he'd take it all out on me. Plus I was the easy target because the boys wanted it. Plus the boys would probably like to take out a little bit of the Bill Watts problems on me, thinking that, first of all, it would bother my dad. It's not. And then all of a sudden, man, it was an open encyclopedia. He's probably one of the key people that trained me after that. I mean, just psychology. And he was brilliant. I used to ask him all the time and go, Rick, why do you smoke so much before, you smoke so many cigarettes before you go and wrestle? And he goes, well, you know what they say about second wind? You know, you catch your second wind, you can go forever. And I go, yeah. He goes, well, I figure if I just use up my first wind smoking cigarettes, by the time I walk out, I'll be on my second wind and I could go forever, brother. I go, oh, you are a sick individual. And then you go out and tear down the house for 45, 50 minutes. I'm like, you are a freak. You know, those are the times, honestly, those are the times that I miss the most. I mean, you know, like Steve Austin. Man, Steve Austin used to come in. I don't care who it was. And this isn't Stone Cold. This is Hollywood Blonde, Steve Austin. He was the same Steve Austin. His name wasn't Stone Cold yet. And Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And they all used to tell me, you know, Ricky Dragon, Rick Rude, Steamboat. There's 4 or 5 guys that, I mean, they would sit there and watch every match. And I was like, wow, these guys really study wrestling. They're studying. But you know what they wanted? To have the best match that night. And even Steve Austin said some of the most brutal stuff to me, I think because he liked me. I mean, you know, he said, oh man, I've got to carry your green ass around the ring. That sucks. And I'd sit there and say, hey man, you know, whatever. He goes, but it makes it kind of better because when we tear down the house tonight and we have the best match, I just proved that I'm that good. Now, it had nothing to do with me. You know, he was giving me a zinger anyway. But I think that he believed in his heart, no matter who he had or not, because he wrestled some of the top guys. He won the best match. You know, I don't think his match stopped. I think we were in Houston, Texas when I think he was wrestling when I don't know if you heard about it. One of the fans started shooting a gun in the stadium. And I mean, at first you hear boom, boom, and you're like, what? What's going on? And all of a sudden you hear a crowd, ah! I think Austin was still wrestling a match, and he didn't get. He goes, what were they going to do? Kill me? You know? And we found out later on the guy was shooting in the ground, and he was mental, and they took him out. But he never stopped his match. I mean, that's how focused he was. I mean, one of the most focused athletes. Again, another person that trained me. I mean, Steve Austin actually gave me, without him knowing, the name of one of my companies, my paint company, Brush with Success. Because when I met him, I came up and said, hey, sir, my name is Erik Watts. He goes, yeah, because I always introduce myself to everybody. He said, yeah. I said, well, I'm wrestling you tonight. He said, yeah. I said, well, what would you like to do? He goes, son, there's only 2 things that are going to happen in here. He said, no, there's only 2 things that are going to happen. He said, I'm going to whoop your ass, and you're going to brush up against success. And I said, what? And he goes, I'm going to whoop your ass, and you're going to have a brush with success, because I'm success. And I looked down and go, okay. I didn't know how to react. I'm like, yeah. I left. 10 years later, I opened a paint company, and it ended up doing very good, and I actually sent him a T-shirt, and I named my company Brush with Success Paint Company. And it was because of him, you know. There's only 2 things I can guarantee you: an ass whooping and a brush with success. That's all he said to me and walked off. I was like, it's going to be a great match.
What kind of relationship did you have with Masa Chono and Kensuke Sasaki and some of the Japanese wrestlers that were around at the time? You ended up in a lot of tag team matches with them.
Yeah. Again, how great is it? Hiro Matsuda. When my dad was promoting in Florida, okay, with the Grams, he took me to a dojo because we were always trained to fight and wrestle. That's what my dad wanted us to do: street fight, wrestle, football. I mean, that was it, man. He loved it. And I remember Matsuda coming up. Matsuda, I think maybe I was 10, and my dad said, "This is Matsuda, and he's going to be your trainer." And I said, oh, thank you, sir. I went to shake his hand. He slapped me. He slapped me so hard, I almost knocked me to the knee. And I got up, and a tear in my eye, And I said, sorry, sir. I went to shake his hand again. He slapped the piss out of me. And he said, bow. I said, okay. I did that. I was looking at him. And after that, I was freaked. And he was brutal. I mean, you were doing the squats, you were doing the push-ups, you were doing the step-ups, you were doing everything. And this isn't pro wrestling. This is, forms of karate and amateur wrestling and everything that he was training us at the time. Move forward to WCW, and now here's Matsuda that was interpreter for so many guys, Chono and all those. Now when he comes, he's known me for years and years and years. He's watched my amateur wrestling background. He's watched this about me. He's watched that. He's followed me. So when I come in, he already has a great respect of what I've accomplished in amateur wrestling already and athletics. Plus, he probably knew that I had a pretty rough life, tough, strict. So immediately we came in and we actually started amateur wrestling, Chono and these guys, and long workouts. Hour and a half before TVs, and the boys would creep up and start watching it and seeing it, and man, there were sometimes like, I'm so tired, I don't know if I can wrestle now. So that turned into a respect, and that's when Chono actually came up with the idea, I want to hand Erik Watts the STF. Okay. First of all, my first finish sucked anyway, and I was freaked out because I was like, a submission, in the United States? And how crazy is it, man? It was unbelievable. And it wasn't me. It wasn't my brain theory. But Chono hands it to me and go down. And now even, what Kurt Angle's using not it, but Chono's. It helped me. So when I went to Japan, I already had a respect, a lot of publicity with those guys. And then what ended up happening, too, is on the road. What people don't understand is on the road is where you get all your work. And so it was shoots a lot of times. Like he would come up to me, Matsuda would come up to me and say, nothing, 20-minute Broadway, don't call it nothing. Don't call nothing. Anything, however you want to say it, don't call anything, say it, no. I mean, single legs, double legs, cross faces, me giving it to him giving it to me, blown sky high in a minute or two, because now you're shooting on each other. And then it just hit me, At the very end, Chono would do something, or I would do something, and we'd go through and it was just an all new learning. It was awesome, beautiful. I learned how to keep my breath, don't get out, don't listen to the fans. How can you listen to the fans when you're trying to stretch someone's trying to stretch you? You don't even hear them what they're saying. So that's how it affected me. The Japanese culture was awesome, and I found out later on it helped me out a lot because when I go to Japan, everyone knows. Everyone knows who I am from the press and from my father being there before. So it's helped out a lot.
Talking about the STF, what are your memories of the TV angle where you attacked Arn Anderson, or got into it rather with Arn Anderson at the gas station?
Yeah, that was one of the most unbelievable things in the world because my life's going 5,000 miles an hour. I mean, honestly, it's going $5,000 an hour. 5,000 miles an hour. I remember the first time I got a check from WCW, my wife at the time, I actually started crying. And she goes, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Nothing." I said, "You won't believe this." And I just threw the check down. And I thought she thought I was mad about the payoff or the payday or what have you. And she goes, "What?" And I said, "You're not going to believe this." And I'm coming off the road, and I said, my body's beat. I'm just beat up. And she goes, "What's the problem?" I said, "They're paying me to do this." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I would do this for free. I would do this for free. This is what I've always wanted to do. This is my love. I'd do it for free, and they're going to pay me?" And she just looked at me, and she got teary-eyed, and that's exactly how I felt about it. But out of nowhere, a man like Arn Anderson, he needed a knee operation. And from what I understand, he came to my father and said, "I need to be out for a little while. I got a knee operation." And this is what I thought. Dream gets in there, he gets a hold of it. My dad sits there and goes, "Well, if that's what you want to do, then that's what we'll do." And it all got thrown at me fast. In a parking lot, this, that, and the other. So I'm just going on because at WCW at the time, you didn't have time to think. You were on the road all the time. When you were off the road, you were just cleaning your gear and going. I show up in here. I show up here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they had planted a guy with a little girl that had a camcorder. And she was to come up and film it and just film it. And he was going to say, "Get your picture with her," and this, that, and the other. Well, I think there was a Pizza Hut across the street. Me and Dusty are hanging out, and it's getting cold and it's starting to sleet. And Dream was like, "Why don't you go over there, baby? And what you're going to do is you get in the gas. And then the little girl, if you will, is going to come up and she's going to get an autograph. And then I'm gonna come across this way. You see what I'm saying? And he's gonna come at you, baby. And then I want you to reverse it. And then you do that STF thing. do a little bit of that Chinese stuff right there, and take him out. And he goes, then the police baby are going to come and take it, and it's going to be beautiful. I'm sitting there going, okay. I mean, what else do you say? I didn't even think, all this is going to happen, and you have it set up. He goes, so I'm going to sit over here in the Pizza Hut, and I'm going to watch for over here. And I said, okay, and he had a video production guy there. I think it was Gary Joster or someone was there, So I guess they were just moonlighting, having a good time, eating some pizza and sitting in the cubby and watching it. And I'm there, I'm getting it. No, nothing's rehearsed. Not the girl, the guy, anything. So I'm not thinking that no one has been told anything. So now I come in, and Arn comes bailing around in his white Mercedes, pulls up, which I'm thinking, okay, he better slow down or he's going to skid on the sleeve, and this is going to be great anyway. The little girl's on my knee, the daddy's saying hi, Arn says something like, Watts, I told you not to be here, smashes me in the car, smashes me in the door. Anyway, reverse it. And the only thing I remember is the beauty of Dusty and my dad and Gagne's and Graham's. They wanted it real enough that I normally put it on the right leg. And he needed the left leg, or vice versa, and he's like, make sure you put it on the injured leg, so we made sure it was on the injured leg. Well, when I had the STF hooked up, a guy comes over and says, stop it, and he starts pulling my arm. I'm like, well, Dusty didn't say anything about this, so I'm like still trying to keep my head down and holding it. Well, shoot, it was a guy saying stop it, and he was like, you can see him, it's on YouTube. He's kind of turning back like, I'm trying to, what do I do? And I'm thinking, I'm kind of sitting there like pulling it in. Well, here comes a cop car. Well, if you check the video on YouTube or wherever you can see it, the cops would grab me, spin me around, and slam me into the car. I'm like, you're taking this acting thing a little serious, aren't you? That's sweet. My bull ring flew off. They cuffed me, cut off the circulation. I'm pretty tall. They slammed me into the door, split my ear open. And now I'm in the back, and I'm crunched up back there, sitting on my cuffs. My ear's bleeding. I'm sitting there going, they get in the car and they take off. You think you're going to do that in our town? Well, the other two cops are here now. You think you're going to do it? Let me tell you what. You just sit your butt back there. I mean, they're giving me the old riot squad stuff. And I'm like, chill, dude, man, that was sweet. You guys, you did that one up. I thought you guys were real cops. Tell a real cop you think he's a real cop. He's ready for a donut joke next. What do you do? What do you mean? I thought they were going to pull over and rough me up, Then all of a sudden you hear, car 37, we've got an issue. Can you take the occupant back to the site? I'm like, what the hell's going on? I find out later on, Dusty had talked to two police officers, and they didn't tell the sergeant. They didn't tell anybody. And so we got people over here at Pizza Hut. I got a guy that could have gone to his store and shot me. He was mad. The little girl was probably freaking out, like, what's going on? The dad. Once I got back, we all started laughing. I heard the police got in trouble, the two police that said it. But it was realistic enough to this day. And I know this is going to sound so corny because I'm sure you guys have interviewed 2,000 people. And for some reason, they're always going to tell you a story about, man, and that night, we were so snug that they thought it was real. But I'm going to use that line. I have people all the time say, you know what? That parking lot thing, I can't believe that because you got to tell me that was real. I just go, it really was. It really hurt my ear. I don't know what to say, but it was fascinating to know the background of it and then to think how awesome it was that Arn Anderson allowed me to be in that position. The only thing that sucked was that then when Ole came in, and I'm not blaming this on Ole, that here comes Arn, and we're running the loop, and people, they did it right. We were running like Charlotte and Chapel Hill and all the places, and the fans showed up in droves for Arn. And they were so ready to just cheer Arn on, even though he was a bad guy, because we were in his hometown and all that. And the only thing that sucks, and I think Arn would say the same thing, is they cut the angle short because they were going to make it like a year-long angle or something. And I think it was Ole or Bischoff at the time wanted to go a different direction. And hindsight's 20/20. But how could you take something that is huge now? People talked about it from what I understand, and you just shit canned it because maybe you didn't like me. I don't know. God forbid. I had to watch Yoshi Kwan underhand Spock people out all day, and they're worried about who my dad is. Are you ribbing me?
I want to kind of just go down the list and do just some word association of different people that you would have come across in WCW. Right. And just give us your thoughts on them as people or them as workers or whatever. Arn Anderson would be the first one.
Word association, let me just put it this way. Incredible worker, but if there's anyone that wants to study interviews, stories, person that can tell a story in an interview, I don't know too much better. So I don't want to put him down. His interviews were incredible. And he was one of the best workers. But he was an incredible package altogether. But what I remember is also going back, because I studied a lot of film, and going, how did that dude tell that whole story? Why can't I tell a story like that? Everything made sense. His interviews made sense, everything. Besides the fact that Arn had a nickname for everyone. And it stuck. And so Arn was, I can't do one word association. I'm not good at it. Arn, it's too hard to explain Arn. Arn is just one of the greatest, one of the best, and there's not much else to say about that.
No, definitely don't feel limited to one word. Just whatever pops in your mind.
Just his skills, his ability, his kindness, his politics were incredible. You know, I mean, he knew what the young guys were going through, and he could still hammer you, and he could still just haze you, but haze you just well enough to know that he cared, that he was pulling for you. Hope you did well. You know, he hoped. He wasn't trying to give you any handouts, and at the same time, man, was one of the best interviewers and one of the best wrestlers I've ever been around in my life.
Bobby Eaton.
Beautiful Bobby. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but it goes around forever. Bobby Eaton, the one thing said about Bobby is, in this business, there are no friends, basically. And it's said all the time. I don't know if you guys ever hear it. They go, hey, how's that guy? What did you think about him? You'll hear it a lot of times. He's like Bobby Eaton. No one has a bad word to say about him, which is untrue, because there's no one that has a bad word to say. There is no one to this day that someone can't say something bad about. To this day, I've never heard one word ever bad about Bobby. And Bobby was so dang funny because he was the go-to guy. He always had 6 towels, box of candy, extra toothbrushes from 15 hotels. So you forgot everything. He was your go-to guy. And the funniest thing I remember is that my dad, when Dundee came in and the Midnight Express were there, they did a scaffold match. And I think the funniest thing was the scaffold match was my dad knew that Bobby was scared of heights. So to see how scared Bobby was before the matches and during the matches, it was unbelievable. And it's so bad because my dad and Bill Dundee were brutal because they would go and sit there and watch him just to go, watch Bobby. He's scared to death. I mean, and it was uncool. Matter of fact, I remember my dad finally put the X nail on it because Bill Dundee, then they'd come up with all these matches for Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express. And so finally I remember Bill Dundee trying to pass an idea for my dad. He wanted to have a death match, and they were going to put a plexiglass box and put a rattlesnake in it. And they were going to do it to where you lost by one team putting the other team's hand in the rattlesnake biting him. And they were going to have a doctor with the venom at ringside. And whoever got bit lost. And I remember when Dundee was trying to pass it by my dad, he goes, besides, Eaton is going to shit. Oh, you think he's scared of heights? Oh, he's so scared of snakes. My dad's like, we can't do it. He goes, Bill, we'll de-venomize the rattlesnake. My dad's like, stop. It's stupid, I mean, today it would have been funny, but he was like, stop it. So they didn't end up doing it, but Bobby was loved by everybody. One of my favorite Bobby Eaton stories was about 2 or 3 weeks into my wrestling. We had like a battle royal in town, and Bobby said, kid, I'll make sure, you and me get in there and mess around. I said, okay, thank you very much. And I said, look, the only thing I don't do is I don't punch. Because the whole time, my dad was like, the baby faces, all they do is punch. Good forearms. Good chops, slaps, and forearms, man. That's what you need. That's what you need. So at the school, that's what I was working on most. And it takes time to learn a punch. You know, God, Lord knows I went to the greatest puncher ever, Bob Cook, which some people might not know, but by far the best punch in the business. I don't care who you are, what you say, Bob Cook. And he was training me, you know. And I was telling Bobby, I said, Bobby, I can't. I'm not going to punch you. And he goes, tonight we're going to learn the punch. I was like, I'm not going to punch you. I just will not punch you. And he said, I don't care. Tonight we're at the Battle Royal and all this other stuff, and he's got me, and he goes, punch me. And now you got to think, now the Battle Royal's down to like 3 or 4 guys. And so he's like, punch me. I'm like, no, I'm for him. He goes, I'm not going to go for it. I'm not going to go for it. He said, throw me over the top rope. Well, I said, okay, he's done. I'm throwing him out. So I went to throw him, and he went over the top rope and went to the apron. So now he's on the apron. He goes, punch me. I'm not going off the apron. Punch me. I'm not going off the apron. So now it's looking horrible because every time he swings in, I'm catching his head. I'm forearming him. He's going back off. He goes, punch me or I'm not going off the apron. I said, I'm not. And he goes, we're going to look stupid. I said, okay. And I punched him, and I think I almost knocked him out. I definitely hurt my hand. I mean, I killed the guy. And all of a sudden you just see him, and he just fell backwards. He hits, his body hits. And he spits up, and he goes, you're never going to hit me again. He goes, you sure in the hell can't punch. I think I'm dead. He goes, matter of fact, now he's talking to me. The fans don't know what he's saying. And I said, now I'm going, I'm sorry. He looks up and he goes, I've never been hit that hard since your dad, because he was the stiffest prick I knew. But you are just like your daddy. And then he just laid there. And matter of fact, I saw him last night. We talked about it, and he remembered it. And bless his heart, because my dad did beat the heck out of those guys. But I hit him. The 2 hardest hits I ever accidentally did was that one, and Dallas, not known for his grace. The first few years, he wanted to pull me out of the ring, and you know, you sit sideways to pull someone out of the ring for the fact that you don't want to step on their feet, twist up, mess up. And he went and yanked me one time. When he yanked me from his feet. And when he pulled me out, I was trying to push off of him, not to hit him. And when I did, the second rope hit my hands and sent him back. And I hit the barricade, and it knocked me out, and it stressed my spinal cord. And he kept the count going until I was coming back. And Pete was like, do you know where you're at? Do you know how many fingers you know? So I got back too, but later on that week, I had a match with Dallas, and 2 or 3 days after the match, I've never seen this in all my time. Dallas's ear was black to the inside, but black, like the deepest black you've ever seen. And I said, oh, my God, what happened? I mean, I thought it was a disease. I thought, he was dying. He goes, you hit me about 2 days ago in the ring. He goes, I think you broke everything in my ear. And he goes, I've never seen it so black. And he said, I guess that was the payback for hurting your neck. And, of course, I said, oh, yeah, that was it. You know, so Bobby Eaton and Dallas Page got the 2 hardest punches ever. But that just shows you what a stud both of them are, because, you know, people don't say stud and Bobby Eaton a lot, but a man to take that punch is sure can hold his weight. And Dallas sure did, because he didn't say anything in that match. What's wrong, boy? What's wrong, boy? Yeah, what's wrong?
No, you don't want to go?
What you doing? Hey, what you doing? He's always sweating. He's always sweating his ass off.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what the shit? Where'd you come from? Last night I said, are you fucking ribbing me? Are you doing like rain dance and shit? I mean, what? You're about to have a fucking cry. I was looking at him and I started sweating. I'm like, he's like, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm just here with my kid. I'm going upstairs. I'll be right. Are you gonna be here? I'll be right. I'll be right. Hey, Slim, be right back. Okay. Well, you don't have to yell at me. I said, all I said was going to be back. I said, by now you could have been back. Okay, Slim. Okay, jeez. Little hat. Oh, you're stiff like that. You know, I'm like, what the fuck is that? What just happened? That's brutal. Yeah, he's one of the best, man.
He's the best.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, ready whenever you are.
Paul Orndorff.
Paul Orndorff, that's a wild one, because again, like I said, you know, I think, you know, great athlete. I actually think he was like the Florida arm wrestling champion. So I met him, and just you know, when I was a kid, this was a stud coming in. So I knew him, respected him, thought everything of the world of him. But then you come to the WCW days, and he's already had his injury, his neck. was bad. You know, he had a process on it. You know, his arm's already, you know, reducing because of the neck injuries and everything. The greatest compliment, probably one of, if not one of the greatest compliments, the arm was one, was Paul. And we went out, and this is a person I looked at almost like a father figure, not just a like when I knew Sting and we knew so many guys. You know, I mean, this was kind of like, because he took me under his wing, and at WCW. We went on a road trip, and it was one of those road trips where it was like 6 matches and a battle royal every night. 6 matches and a battle royal every night. And it was about 7, 8, 9 days. And it was crazy because the towns were hit and miss. One night slammed, and one night no one. And no matter what, Paul said, no matter what Grizz says, if he says give us 7 minutes, when you go out and you hear the time limit, we're doing 1 to 2 minutes less than that, period. And I'm like, all right, call everything out in the ring. Yes, sir. So we'd go out there, and if they said, 20-minute time limit, we were going 18, 19. It just didn't matter. And it was getting heat, I think, with the boys, but it wasn't. See, this is something weird. It wasn't me saying it. It was Paul Orndorff saying this is what we're going to do. You going to tell him no? I don't think so. Besides the fact, let me give you the other side of this. Was I upset about it? Hell no. If I came and gave you a lottery ticket, would you give it back to me? So it's a catch-22. Both of them, I don't care. 1, Paul said what to do. I'm doing it. 2, did I eat it up? Damn right. Where do you get 19 minutes in the ring with Paul Orndorff? Get over it. I can't. I can't sit there and go, gee, guys, I got some heat. I don't want to better myself. Because when it comes down to it, most of the time I say wrestlers sometimes can act like overpaid strippers. I don't want to offend anybody out there, you wrestlers and you strippers. But it's the truth. We can act crazy, silly, stupid, and be the most prideful, self-centered son of bitches you've ever met. So I'm going to go do what I want to do. But you got to understand, on the nights it was packed, it wasn't that big a deal. When there's no one there, and we're the 5th match, and everyone's got to wait to the Battle Royal, and they got to wait because we want to go 20, 30 minutes, then there's some heat. The last day we were somewhere in West Virginia, and I was wrestling Paul. Nick Patrick was the ref. Grizz was the agent. Baby faces, Johnny B. Bad, Van Hammers, Buff. Then you had your top talent guys. And I say that with all respect, but honestly, that's what it was. And we're having our match. And it was weird, 15 minutes gone. That night it was like 30 minutes, 15 remaining. And so he's like, all right, let's get up ahead of steam, because he had real good heat on me. And so I thought, okay, we're going to do a double heat. We got 30 minutes. Let's go do a double heat. We start going into this comeback, and I'm ready for him to cut me off. And he doesn't move. He says, backslide me. I backslide him. I take him down. 1, 2. And now I'm lifting up because 3. So I kick up like this. I'm looking. I'm going, what the? And Nick goes, roll out of the ring, roll out of the ring. So I roll out of the ring like this. I'm freaking. And Paul is just throwing a shit fit. And he's looking at me, and he goes, just go in the locker room. So I won the match, but I'm kind of putting on my hand. I'm hauling ass. I'm trying to kind of walk out of here because, oh my goodness, I just screwed up a match with my mentor, this guy that's toured me and taken me the longest period of. So we get in there, and of course we have separate dressing rooms, and Grizzly Smith comes in. He's never ribbed me. And then he just looks and he goes, in all my days I've known you, son. And I've known you and I've been around you all my life. You're like a son to me. But to do what you did tonight, there's no reason. And your dad, no one's going to defend this shit. You're gone. You're done. And I go, what are you talking about? Why didn't he pop up? Why didn't his shoulder come up? Well, I did everything. I did. He goes, it's done. Everything's done. Well, I remember Mark Marrow stepping up and going, no, that's bullshit. We'll stand. We watched that, and then Hammer. We'll watch. Of course. Now, if you think about the year, I think the whole solar panel of wrestling just stood up for me. Buff Bagwell, Johnny B. Bad, and Van Hammer. Okay, I mean, thank you, but oh my God, I think we shared so much heat. Matter of fact, Arn Anderson said one time he passed us. Us four were in a car. He passed us going down the road, and he goes, He got to the building, he goes, "You guys aren't going to believe it. Woke up today a little late, got a workout, ate twice, had a protein shake, and I was upset." "What are you upset about?" He goes, "Because I didn't get my tanning in." And they're like, "Oh," he goes, "but it's okay." He goes, "Because I just passed Watts, Hammer, Bagwell, and Johnny Bad, and there's so much fucking heat in that car, I'm as tan as ever, baby, because that is a vehicle solar panel, brother." He goes, "Thanks, guys," and walked off. So that's how much heat we had, okay? And so now I'm sitting there going, so, "Yeah, guys, take up for me." I'm looking over at the rest of the restroom and going, "Oh, shit, not us four," So, but they were serious, and I think Mark Merrill said something like, "Well, if you let him go, then I'll go too," which probably then everyone would applaud it. "Is there any way we can get Bagwell and Hammer to fall for this shit too? Because we'll get all four of them out now, the young bloods. Let's kill them." So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Oh my God!" So Grizz leaves. Now I'm sitting there going, I'm kind of stalking him, and now I'm like pleading my case to me, and it's getting like, but I'm like upset, like I'll leave. This is Paul Orndorff. So there's another match, and then the Battle Royal. So the other match comes back, and now we're sitting in here, and everyone's like, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" And what are you going to do, Erik? I don't know what to do. Well, Nick Patrick comes back and says, "Brother, be ready, because Paul said he's going to whoop your ass. It's going to be a fight." And I just sit there and said, "Man." And then just my instinct kicked in. I said, "Well, if he brings it, man, I'll cover up for a second, but if he brings it, I'm gonna try my hardest to beat his ass." I said, because I didn't do anything wrong. And I said, I can't believe it's going this far. I really can't believe. One goes out, two goes out. They do the heels first. Now here comes the baby faces. So Grizz goes, "I'd wait till last, Erik. I'd wait till last, because I don't know what's going to happen." Well, as the people are going out, I'm kind of watching them. Orndorff, he's not in the ring. I'm like, "Oh shit, man, I gotta be ready for this." And I'm like, "What?" And Grizz turned to me and goes, "Son," he said, "Orndorff said you did 10 times better than he thought. It was such a pleasure to be with you all week. Not one of the boys are smart enough to this. He wanted to thank you." He said, "And he wanted you to win a match, whether the office called it or not, because they didn't. He wanted to put you over." I said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "So walk out, because he's going to come up from behind, and he's going to hit you and kick you as hard as he can, and you're never going to make it to the ring. We're going to break it up, and you fight all the way to the back." I said, "Yeah, really?" And he goes, "Yeah." I walked out there. Man, about 6 feet in, I was getting hit. I mean, with some live rounds. But I was just so excited that Grizz said that. The stress was off me, and it was so funny because here's all the guys in the batting roll, and they're supposed to get ready to, and everyone's sitting at the apron watching us. I was like, "Oh, I wonder what's going to happen, who's going to win this shit, right?" And so they're watching all the way through the curtain. When I got back, Paul hugged me and he said, "Son, I didn't do it for who you were or what you were, it's but what you did and your hard work, man. Thank you so much." Freaking Paul Orndorff did that for me. That's Paul Orndorff. Enough said.
Lord Steven Regal.
Lord Steven Regal is a wild one, man. Well, how'd you get that one? That's he's a wild one because he's someone that I relate to, and it's weird. He always treated me phenomenally nice. He was one of those guys that came in under the radar. We wanted an English guy, and came in, and you look at him, and just build and his body and his nature. He didn't, it wasn't like walking a Luger or let's say Luger wasn't really known real well, but it wasn't what you weren't bringing a body Donaldson here, 6'6", freak, to have a jealousy. So people kind of nonchalantly, "Hey, it's a British guy that we heard might be able to work pretty good," and no jealousy. It's kind of like, okay, we got this going. And I had the pleasure to work with him and around him. And a lot of people don't know. I mean, there's different wrestling techniques, as we see now in Mexico, from Mexico now for the last 10 years. It's the same way in Germany and England and many of these countries. Japan's not the same style as over here. I mean, people should know that by now. So I got to learn a lot from him, and to this day, I haven't spoke to Steve since September, and but it's like almost a second generation connection with that guy. Always so polite, top etiquette, very nice. And when he talks to you sincerely, to you, not through you. And yet at the same time, there would be no reason for me to have like this great admiration for him other than the fact that he did just like everyone else. It's less crazy because me asking a Harley Race and a Matsuda and a Chono and a Sting and those guys to come work out with me, that's a big deal. But I would ask anyone that I thought had something to teach me. And some of his locks and leg locks and arm locks and chain wrestling is awesome. So he worked with me, and again, what's weird is to this day, he's I could call him up and say, "How you doing?" And it would be like we didn't lose time. So it's hard to say. I think he's a really good wrestler. I think he's very smart. I wasn't around him at the time when he had a bad time, so I never saw him having bad times. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. So I've only seen him as when he first got over here, alive, willing to learn, teach, and so considerate, so humble. And you know what? It's the same Steve Regal I know today. So it's a weird one because most people would be asking about all kinds of people, but Steve Regal I've got a lot of respect for. Fantastic, great psychology, and just a really, really good, humble guy. I mean, I've people have said bad things about him, but I think it's out of jealousy, not anything else. And I don't mean to say, but honestly, because he never said anything bad. Now, during his bad time, maybe he acted up. I don't know. But he's a real good diplomat, put it that way.
Hopefully, we'll get to stories that happen later in life but Scotty Flamingo.
Scotty Flamingo, I'll probably burn for this one. When I was in college, I'd watch WCW and WWF occasionally. And actually, one of my favorite characters on WCW was Scotty Flamingo. Had no idea who he was, didn't know the background. And came here and got to meet him. And he come down to school a lot. And he was another one that had no problem. Dear God, did he have no problem showing you what to do. Dear gosh. There's sometimes I used to tell Raven, we'd sit there and he's so knowledgeable and he's so smart. And if you've hung around him, there's just like hours in your life that you wish you could get back because he just wasted all of them, because he's repeated and said the same thing 30 times. And he's going to make you take his way or decision no matter what. So you just learn to go, yeah, you're right, and just walk off. And then sometimes when you do that, you'll go, okay, you didn't mean it, and you got to go through the shit all over again. But he's a genius. He's one of those enigmas. He's one of those people that you're like, oh my God, you're so brilliant, you're so talented, and you are such a pain in the ass. And that's just him, because I don't care what anyone says. One of the best workers ever, it was torture to go work with him because what we went over before the match, during the match, after the match, the bar of the match, in the morning of the match, Waffle House of the match, cartoons, it just kept on, and he would leave off, and then in the ring. See what I'm saying? I knew they would do that. Okay, good. Now, what I was telling you in the back was, had I not done that, it would have been something different because I knew how that crowd was going to react. Okay, what do you want to do next? Well, what I want to do next is ask you, do you think that was the right thing to do or not? This is the best time to know. So I bet, what the hell are you doing? We can talk about this shit later, and, oh, no, so you'd rather be wrestling Steve Austin, huh? No, I'm happy here, and it was that way in and after, and he just had a way to get under my skin. But also, to this day, if I wanted to know, he's a wealth of knowledge. He just keeps on going. He knows so much. But a prime example was me, Terry Taylor, I think Vince Russo, and Raven coming back from a TNA show. And again, there's only so much you can do. When you're stuck in a capsule for 3 hours up and at a show in 3 hours back, you have come to your limit of Raven. It's done. It's over. And we were going through a Wendy's drive-thru, and he was asking me something. He was just on the same thing, and it was like a personal issue or something, I remember. And I said, Raven, I promise you, if you say it one more time, bring up the subject one more time, I'm going to beat your ass. And he goes, I'm sorry. I didn't know it meant that. I said, when do you think it didn't mean that much to me? I've asked you 10 times. We started this conversation at 11 this morning. I said, it's over. He goes, I got it. It's done. It's done. I placed the order. We pull up because there's a line. He goes, but Eric, I really think in this situation, this is what you should. I said, fuck that. I put the car in place. I got around. I'm going. Now, Terry Taylor, Raven, and I think it was Vince, locked me out of the car. I am ripping the door. I said, get your ass out. I'm going to beat your brains out. Here's Terry. Nothing ends in violence. I don't give a shit. Get him. I was gonna beat his ass. I mean, I was so mad. And Vince is like, I think that's like the first time he was gonna see a fight. He's like, he didn't know whether to say stop or go, or and Raven's like, hey, look, I said that's it. And so they had the car and they rolled down the window. I said, if he promises not to talk the whole way home, which is no way for Raven, I said, we're not stopping at his Waffle House. We're not gonna watch him read comic books. All the way home for the next 3 hours, he doesn't even. If he speaks, I'm not getting out of the car. So I'm going to jump out of the seat while he's driving. I'm going to beat his ass because I'll kill him before the car crashes. And so we negotiated that. And believe it or not, the first time I've ever rode with Raven, and he never spoke a word all the way back. And he apologized. And then the next day said, hey man, I wanted to call you again and apologize. But you really should think about it because I think that the best thing for you to do is and da-da-da-da. And then I said, you son of a bitch, he goes, fuck you, and hung up on me. And that's Raven, I mean, it's just Raven, bro. It's just Raven.
Wanted to ask you about Starrcade '92. Starrcade, a big card. Okay. It's you as a rookie. Yeah. You're teaming with Jushin Liger, one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Dog and Sting.
Against Sting, who's the franchise, and Dr. Death, who had been one of the headliners for your dad. Yeah. That had to be an experience for you.
It was off the chain. I mean, Dr. Death was basically my dad's protege. He was that guy that if none of us wrestled, that would have been his son. I mean, Doc actually came and lived at the house to do his training. They did a lot of the training just on an amateur wrestling mat. No ring. I remember my dad coming in after a workout and said, that son of a bitch, I've already had to find him before we start. I go, what's wrong, Dad? He goes, he put a hole in the garage. Well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I threw him in. He went to have, we haven't even been in the ring. He ran into it like a turnbuckle and knocked down. There was a hole in the wall of the sheetrock where the guy went in through the sheetrock. But it was cool because we would hang out, and when I come home sometimes, they'd dip a skull in, out with a Zebco, the front, ponds. Front pond, catfishing. Right there's my little sister, our little princess, 4 or 5 years ago. Doc, I go, would you take me fishing? So he must have gone out there just, in between workouts and was fishing with her. So, I mean, what a gentle, beautiful, giant, wonderful guy. And then you hear stories of just what an animal he could be in and out of the ring. And so to me, to be the first time to ever wrestle with the guy that was like the second coming of Bill Watts, then Lager, of course, come on. I mean, incredible. And then Sting. I mean... I never, us as kids, we saw so much. We saw so many people. We were never starstruck. We weren't like, we went to concerts and things like that. I never got starstruck or anything by people because I thought the biggest celebrities in the world were my friends anyway. Or mentors or what have you, I mean, you get raised by these people a lot of times. And I went in there excited. And before the match, Sting said, hey, you're a baby, I'm a babyface. Let's not get in there together tonight because, just no reason to do it. He said, let's keep this, this way, that way, blah, blah, blah. Let's not do too much. And I said, okay. And I was so excited. And when I got tagged and I went in that ring, it was incredible. It felt incredible. And Doc knocked me almost completely out with a clothesline. And then I didn't give a shit who's in the ring. I was just trying to catch my breath, figure out what zip code my ass was in, try to find it, and put it back to my body, and get back up because he killed me. And there was a few things right after that, and I think my body was so numb that it didn't matter. So, I mean, the match was incredible, pay-per-view was incredible, everything was incredible, but it was kind of like, when I got excited to be in front of 103,000 fans at Ohio State, and you could live it up. You smell the grass, you're working out, the heat, the crowd, everything's pumping until the first snap of the ball, and now it's football. You don't know that you're on ESPN. You don't know that the coach. Everything's just right there. So to tell you, before the match, I was just, calling my wife and just sitting there just going crazy, you know, because Sting also played an important part in my life, because Sting, it's too long to go in, but you know, us kids, you know, my dad would have us watch the show. Of course, we loved watching the show, and then ask us to critique the show, who we liked, who we didn't like, because then he had you know 4, 5, 6-year-old daughter, you know 10, you know, as we, you know, so there's 7 years separation between me and my sister. There's a year between me and my brother. There's 3, 4 years between me and Joel. So he had a gap ranging of all these years to be the focus group of asking who you like not. And one of the first people that came in, you know, that really caught my eye was Sting, because of the face paint and the bleach blonde hair. Plus, at that time in Oklahoma, Bosworth was the man. Big bleached hair, you know? I mean, the whole thing. So it was like a cool new look and all this, you know? And the day I met those guys, it was incredible. They came to the gym, and I remember Hellwig, he walked in the door, he went like this, and he turned sideways. He walks in. You know, because I mean, he was just, you know, so big, but then he even played it up bigger. I mean, he was a freak. Huge. And but Sting meant a lot. And then we stayed in contact. Sting, when he would come through Louisville or whatever, would call and leave messages at the football facility. Hey, I'm in town. Why don't you come check out the matches? Want to talk to you. And we'd go hang out. So when I came here, it was more on a kayfabe, because, you know, he was saying, hey, you know, it's not the best to run around with, you know, you need to do your thing, pay your dues and all that. He goes, but if you ever need something, want something, come talk to me. And he was always, always very level-headed. He was a good sounding board, you know. So with Sting, it was it's a friendship and a bond that can't be broken. I mean, I felt like he was, you know, a superstar, but almost a brother superstar, and someone that, you know, he just had that level head. So to talk to him, I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, you know, just riding down the road, 1 o'clock of the night, called him, and of course, you know, California time was fine, but hour and a half on the phone, and we talked about nothing about wrestling. Just life and what was going on, family, things like that. So Sting was just an amazing, amazing person to me, and still is to this day. You know, so you know, I got off on that, but the original question was, what now?
About the Starrcade match.
Yeah. So if you put all that together, and I'm sorry I rambled on. Now do you understand? Like, you know, here's Steve Williams, the second cousin. Dad was around him all the time. Plus, I went to almost every one of his wrestling matches in Oklahoma. I went to every one of his home football games in Oklahoma. You know, I mean, he's got these big eyebrows, and they're actually a lot of scar tissue, because he was such an animal on the field. When he was a lineman, he'd hit people, and even when his helmet came off, he would be pushing people and headbutting them, and he would be bleeding in the games, and he was just a freak. He was a man-child. So you got those 3 people, and I was nothing more than excited, very happy Mark to be in the match. You know, I mean, that's as close to a video game as you can be. Like, you know, choose your 3 opponents to be in a tag match. I mean, that's virtual reality right there. And I got a piece of it.
Here's the chance to address the critics and a lot of the criticism that came at the time and has come since then. Mm-hmm. What's your response to a lot of the cries of nepotism and the cries that you didn't earn your spot in WCW?
Right.
You know, you've addressed a lot of ways in which you things you've done and ways in which you improved as a wrestler in WCW. But what's your direct response to the cries of nepotism and the criticisms that you didn't earn your spot in WCW?
Well, it's tough because you know, there's so many ways to go at that. I mean, it depends on how you feel that day, right? Because first of all, you can first rip the people that rip you, and that would be the easiest way. You know, 90% of the people that rip me probably don't have a college degree. Okay, so what dues did they pay for life? Where have they been? You know, it's easy to sit there and say, what have you earned? What have you done since then? I've been successful in and out of wrestling. You know, and that sounds like anger, you know. And then when you really look back at it, the thing about nepotism, when I think about it, it saddens me because I truly don't understand the business. And the majority of your critics are just that. They're critics. I mean, the wrestlers get so caught up in this game, but man, you go out to L.A., our critics are patty cake to TMZ. The sheets they've got are the Inquirer. We're not talking about 10,000 fan base that sees me in a wiener with my letter jacket on and going, Eric's a wiener or sucks, and the worst thing that ever happened to wrestling. Oh my gosh, Meltzer. One time I was laughing because I'd never met him, and I was like, if I ever meet him, I was just wondering if I get royalties. Because shit, I've been his front page for the last 2 years, man. Let's see, what do we want to write about that'll sell out? Well, that still sucks. Yeah, let's nail him, But a long time ago, my dad taught me, you don't listen to the critics. They're a critic for a reason. They're a critic for a reason because A, they didn't ever do it. B, they never could. Then you've got other guys that have done it and are critics. Name the real successful guys to me. Who's been a major star and that has a dirt sheet? Name a major star that's a major true critic. There isn't any. I don't know. Goldberg, I don't know. A star or not, whether you think he's good, don't know. I've never heard him really be a huge critic. Sting, no. Stan Hansen, no. Vader, Steiners, Hogan, they're not critics. They've been in the business, they know what it's like. So to the critics about nepotism, okay, where do you work? I mean, are you kidding me? It's who you know in life in the first place. I would love for you to show me a place where if it's a decent sized company in the first place, there is not someone that works there that knows somebody, a friend of somebody, a relative of somebody. Does that change your talent or your ability? Absolutely not. My resume shows, 3 years. I got a degree within my first 3 years. Academic All-American, football player, All-American high school. I mean, this didn't stop me. Motivational speaker. I owned 2 businesses that did well over $1 million within 2 years of owning them while being on the road and speaking, being a motivational speaker. State Board Pardon Patrol, Georgia. I mean, I can go on and list a list of accolades I've done that say, yes, I was a tremendous athlete. I've got an incredible athletic background. I was undefeated my last 3 years of amateur wrestling. So it's not like I just did this one day and go, boom. So to my critics, I would say, I thank you. I thank you. Google my name. Google my name. I went in and put Brock Lesnar, Sting, Steiner, Macho, all that. Put their name, wrestler, see how many hits there are. Put Erik Watts, wrestler, see how many hits there are. Okay? You do it after this interview. It's going to blow you away. Why in the world do so many people talk about me? I haven't wrestled in 3 years, bro. Why are we even doing this interview? Because there are people out there that are dying to have it, that loved me, thought I was great, but there's more that hated me and hell don't even know why. And we want to get this interview and tear it apart. Thank you so much, because the residuals, I'm sure High Spot's going to send me, my kids will love it. And I'm not meaning it wrong. I'm like it doesn't bug me. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I threw out something about Samoa Joe the other day, and people were going crazy about the Samoa Joe. Oh my goodness, because you have all your hardcore Samoa Joe fans, and I can't believe you said that, and you don't have the right. I have the right to say whatever the hell I want. Just like you guys do. Congratulations. So nepotism, stop it. DiBiase's kid, if you're telling me he's not a star, you're an idiot. If you're not telling me that Cody Reynolds doesn't have what it takes, you're an idiot. Okay? So if we just took out all the family members, can we go ahead? Why don't we get rid of one right now? He sucked. Jake Roberts. Oh, wait, hold on. No, he was one of the best we ever had. What if we didn't let any second generations come in here? The Owen brothers. I mean, they sucked, right? Brett? Well, who's he? I mean, nepotism. Nepotism has, are you ribbing me? So, you got to take it all with a grain of salt. I mean, what do they know? And when it all comes down to it, even those critics are marks. Aren't they? The way I see it. By the way, I think I'll tell you, I'm a mark too. So, I appreciate all my fans, whether they're non-Erik Watts likers or Erik Watts likers. I appreciate it because they're all still fans. I mean, I just did a Jersey show. The guys came up to me at the Fan Fest and said, oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming. We got more response from you coming than, I don't want to nail anyone, but than so many people. or everybody, let's say, what have you. And the way he said it was so nice. We got more response. There's probably people going, I got that some bitch's autograph. I'm going to go. I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to put it at the bottom of my urinal. But you know what? The promoter made money, enjoyed it, and he said he can't wait till I come back. Critic, good or bad, it keeps you popular. So if you guys really hate me and think I suck, what you should probably do is quit talking about me, quit getting on the internet, and quit saying something, because I have been done with wrestling. I may come back just because there's so many people out there that talk about me one way or the other. It keeps me interesting to Vince, to TNA, and everybody else. I mean, I've had people calling me from Japan, still. So, I've been out of wrestling because I want to, not because I've had to. Big difference.
You mentioned Vince.
Mm-hmm.
What are the circumstances that led to your departure from WCW, and what led you to the WWE?
WCW, to this day, I can't tell you. WCW was, my dad had left. Ole was in. I had a meeting. Ole brought me in with Dusty Rhodes and said, son, you got a home here. It has nothing to do with your dad. You've proven yourself to us. We can see where you're at with the time you've done, and we're so excited. We're so excited, and Dusty's got some major plans for you. So I said, thank you. And they said, so don't worry about anything. Don't worry about your contract, anything. I said, well, fantastic. That was nice of them to do. Shortly after that, Ole's gone. Here comes Bischoff. And we all know how Bischoff feels about my dad. Well, we know how Dad feels about Bischoff, But again, either here nor there, I'm trying to feed my family, and I'm trying to do what I want to do. I'm trying to fulfill my dream. I mean, look at it, man. You guys get paid to do what you love. They say less than 10% of the world gets paid to do what they love. I was getting paid to do what I love. So Bischoff came in, and I was like, oh, well, this is not, this is going to be horrible. We were in a TV taping, and I think it was in Macon, and they wanted everyone there to announce, that Bischoff was now in control and this, that, and the other. And Eric Bischoff at that meeting said, I've got a new direction. I've got new thought patterns. We're not doing the Bill Watts stuff. We're not doing the Ole Anderson stuff. We're going to do my stuff. I am in charge. And I believe he made a point. I'm the vice president, because I think that was stuck in his craw bad, because my dad was the president of WCW, and when they parted, everyone was vice president after then, and that was, I think, Eric Bischoff really enjoyed that 3 years later, whatever, he became president per se. But hey, he made a point of that, and this, that, and the other, and what kind of, it was uncomfortable a little bit, because he's throwing a lot of shots at my old man, and I don't go for that, whether I believe or don't believe in it. But you got to do business, So I'm sitting in there, and everyone's there, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is where he cooks me, and just to make himself look like that's what he could do. And he said, and I'm going to tell you what, we have got some of the biggest stars in this room, and I'm talking about workers and people that are going to be your next Hogans, your next Stings, your next Lugers, your next, whatever names he used. And he said, now I want you all to watch one person in particular. I all want you to watch Erik Watts, because that is the future. So I was like, what? I shook my head. This is in front of everybody. So I had a really good feeling about it. And we were doing some things. And matter of fact, WCW, we had 3-month termination at the end of each year. And the year was coming up. And I had already, it made me roll into a new contract. And he had called me in and negotiated my contract with me. And he's like, well, we can't do this and do that. And for a while it was great, because he said, I make just almost the same as you, or whatever he used to say. He goes, because there's a guy named Bill Watts here. He made so much money, and there's a few other guys that made so much money, but that's not how we're doing it. If I'm not making X number of dollars, and no one else is, he'd use that on some of the lower end talent. And so he did it. The next year went, and right at the end of the year, they should have sent me the release, and didn't, if they wanted me gone. And all of a sudden, one day, I get a release. out of nowhere. I mean, nothing bad, nothing good, nothing anything, just boom, release. So I wrote back and said, hey, by the way, I've already rolled into my new contract. And they said, we're not going to honor it. And actually, this day, I mean, I could have taken legal action because not only did I have my check, but they actually reversed the payment out of my bank after like 7 days, which I thought was illegal. And when they did that, I kind of looked at myself and I called them. I said, hey, man, no problem. I wasn't hard. I wasn't mad. I just went and got more work, more jobs. And then I ended up at WWF, you know. I mean, I did a show for Vern Gagne and a few people, and Vern hadn't seen me work before, and he saw me, and he thought that me and this guy named Chad Fortune had a lot of talent. As a matter of fact, Chad was under a training school contract, and that became an issue because Chad was there for 3 or 4 years, and what had ended up happening is Chad was at a Orlando taping, and they said that they were going to use him. It was his time. They were going to have an outfit for him. And he was sitting outside the locker room area, and I remember him calling me. Ric Flair came up and he said, okay, all the marks need to get out. He goes, come on, son. All the marks need to go. Ric Flair didn't even know who he was. Now, how is one of your major training school stars not even known? So that stuck a craw in him. Plus, he just beat Goldberg on a TV tape they did, and they canned it. So actually, Goldberg lost on a TV taping to Chad Fortune. But then he went a different direction with Goldberg and said he was going to do the unbeaten streak, right? Which, thank goodness, they didn't show that. But Chad called me. He was upset. He was still under contract. And so it put a lot of pressure on me because I was going to go try out. So then I called up WWE and said, I want to bring a guy with me. They go, has he ever wrestled? And I said, he's only wrestled a few matches, but he's been in WCW for 3 years. I said, well, what's his contract say? Well, when I read the contract didn't have a clause in it. You could leave, but they could fire you at any time. So we went, tried out. When we came through the curtain, Vince McMahon said, I've got to have you, and had 2 contracts sitting there. So I said, I'll give my lawyer the contract, and we'll sign. And Chad signed, and I signed, and that's when all the contracts changed for training school people because of Chad Fortune. But, I mean, you know what? One guy got them compared to 50 guys getting screwed over at that school, you know. So WWE and with WWF, that's weird. I'm not sure about that either because came in, won, and then I was at the meeting which they said you're going to go on the European tour and we're dropping the tag belts to you. So why don't we do this? This is how quick it happened. They'd already printed all the tickets for Bart and Billy Gunn to Europe and printed them all for me and Chad for Canada. Canada, we already knew the pre-sales for Canada sucked. And it was like a 5-day tour. Europe was a 7 or 10-day tour already sold out. So imagine this heat. Come up, JJ or Pat Patterson, I can't remember, came up, Bart and Billy, give me your tickets. Handed them to us. Took our tickets, said, now you're on the Canada tour. Now you guys are in Europe. This is when they brought us in all for the meetings about, the lawsuits and the drug testing and all this other stuff. They had an annual meeting. So Chad was like, oh my God. I said, oh dude, whoa, this is heavy. I mean, our next TV is going to be world champions. Our third TV, we're going to be world champions. Well, that next day we're supposed to fly out. By that morning, the politics had hit. The politics were over, brother. Bart and Billy Gunn were ticked. They knew the right people, and I don't hold it against them. And the next day they go, well, we've decided we're still going to do the belt swap, but you guys go to Canada, and you go. Vince paid us for the Europe tour. And we got back, and he goes, well, we've got some ideas. Why don't you guys go down to Memphis, let some things cool off, and work on the tag team issue. But see, I think my dad came up there about that time. And at that time, I don't know, this dad never asked him. Me and him were kind of on the outs. And brought us back about a year later. We did a few matches, and then they said they wanted to let go of Chad. And they let go of Chad, and they kept me, and they were going to repackage me. And I said that I didn't want to. And Vince, unbelievable. Because when he said, Eric, I want to offer you a tryout, and I want to offer this, it has nothing to do with your father. I don't care if father, good guy, bad guy, I think he's a genius. It has nothing to do with him. How I feel about him, I want to see you. When he signed me, he said, this is you. This is awesome. So it was a good... I don't know many people who have gotten their releases before. I actually called Vince and said, sir, you said that if I'm ever unhappy that I could be out of my contract. And he said, well, we've already done all the, drawings and everything. We know your next character. And I said, sir, I'd rather leave. He goes, well, I gave you my word. And I said, yeah. He goes, I really wish you'd stay. I think you're going to do very well. And I said, no, not interested. And I called him and he actually sent me my release. So they didn't fire me. I left. And I'm not just saying that that's the truth, whether it was a good call on my part or a bad call. Then I did Japan, and I did, ECW, and I did Germany, and I went back to WCW, and then probably one of the greatest runs I ever had was TNA. Because when Paul Lee found out that I could speak on the mic, Raven was there. Raven told Russo. So when Russo brought me in, he goes, man, I heard you're good at the mic. I said, I don't know. No one really heard me talk too much. And that's when it took off. When they let me unleash on the mic, man, at TNA, it was awesome.
Wanted to go back just a step and
Okay.
get your impressions and reactions of Techno Team 2000, the costumes and the gimmick and the ideas that were pitched to you.
Yeah.
Your reactions and anything that was pitched to you that didn't come to fruition, or where they wanted to go with that whole gimmick.
Man, I'm going to tell you this. I have only the utmost respect for Vince McMahon, and I only hold my opinions for what I feel. I don't care what anyone else thinks or doesn't think. But I think he's a brilliant guy. And again, like a lot of respect. But I have no idea what Herb or Acid Trip, whoever was on when they came up with the Techno Turds. Because it was the dumbest damn thing I've ever seen. We looked like we'd been blown up, microwave popcorn, metallic, paper mache outfits, and I've got a little bit of a country, accent. What the hell was I going to get? Hey, I'm Troy Techno, y'all. We're from the future. Did you not know John Wayne's in the future? I mean, well, what are you going to say? I mean, And it was just horrible because I was sitting there going, what are we going to do when we get on the mic? I mean, the idea of the Team 2000, because I was doing some stuff off the top rope. I made Chad do some stuff off the top rope. He was like, man, we were doing double leapfrogs, double drop kicks, double hip tosses. But the double leapfrogs were like blowing them away. We did all kinds of double moves. Throwing the opponent in, and here I am, 292. Chad's 270, and Chad would run in, and I would throw him as he's leapfrogging over me and splash people in the corner. They just hadn't seen two guys that big, that agile, so I could understand Vince's idea was you were going to be the Team of 2000. You're going to be the next generation of tags, big and fast. And athletic and agility. So I understand that part, but I don't know if you remember. That's when the marketing team there came up with everything rhyming will stick in your head. I don't know if you ever saw that study. Some other businesses did it, but Troy and Travis, Techno Team 2000, Bart and Billy, Smoking Guns, Kip and Zip, the Body Donnas, Frick and Frack. I mean, everybody right there in that small time came out with these rhyming names. So I didn't like the gimmick as far as think that I care for it. No, I didn't. But then I was so pleased to be up there. I didn't care about the gimmick. I didn't care about the interviews at the time. I was just happy. The time in which they spent to put the gimmicks together and the money spent, I'll never understand that, man. Because they just fired their person and they got a guy to start doing the outfits that only did runway fashion models. So we're flying in first class, limos, back and forth for this guy to design everything. We didn't get our outfits till the first TV taping. They flew us to Texas to have our boots done. Okay? When we get there, my pants came to my knees. They didn't even tuck to my boots. Thank God they had those weird accordion knee pads. That's what we tucked into our boots because our pants. How'd you miss the length of the pants that bad? Okay? He thought it was the new look, zipping the jacket from top down. I mean, it looked like a girl's fashion runway jacket. I mean, we looked like sissy boys in a weird outfit coming out there. That's brutal, okay? Chad, his first set of boots, the guy on the measurement, because there were zip-ups, he put sewed the calf in on the shin. So the first taping, we had to take black electrical tape and tape his boots on. tape his boots. This is the tens and twenties of thousands of dollars spent on outfits, and we look like a runway drag show with country-speaking guys with taped-on freaking boots. And then later on, they wanted us to try face paint and asked us to paint each other's faces. Because I remember the first time I started painting Chad's. I was like, oh, yeah, this looks good. This looks good. And he didn't know it, and I drew dick on his head. The word dick. And it was freaking awesome. So Jerry the King Lawler comes in, and he'd painted my face already. And Lawler walks in and he goes, that is priceless. I thought you had heat. This is unbelievable. And walked out. I go, you like the paint? He goes, oh, the paint just is perfect. He just knew it was horrible, And then there's my partner, and didn't know it. He's standing there, has his dick on his head, which I told him and took it off. But then we X-nayed the paint, So it was kind of weird. They knew they wanted to use us. They knew Chad was green as hell. I mean, when you should have seen him, our first match at Madison Square Garden, he was frozen. He just said, oh, my God, look at all the people, look at the people. He didn't even remember the match hardly, and hell, it was 5 minutes, But man, he had a lot of potential. We had a lot of potential. And that one was another one. I know it sounds like a bad excuse. There was rumors that my dad came in, and he was upset about the wrestling tapes, being, because about that time was the wrestling tapes when I say we, my mom took ownership of all the wrestling tapes. So it was kind of a touchy subject at that time. But I truly don't know. Didn't ask him because, again, I know this sounds so crazy. I didn't care. Because the way I learned about it is if you're not wanted, for whatever reason, political, maybe you suck, who knows, move on. And guess what? I just went to the next federation. And I that sounds cocky to some people. But no, I mean, what's... and that's something else that you think about it. The critics that are so critical about me, how did I get my job at WWE? My dad, in theory, some people have said he's the reason I got fired. Meaning he didn't want to be doing business with me. He was going to show me he was boss. I don't know if that's true. You got ECW. Paul Lee could not stand my father. Okay? He brings me in. That's another story. I didn't even go to ECW. I was hanging out. Me and Dusty went down and talked to Paul Lee one time on center stage, and he said, oh my gosh, Dreamer went crazy, everyone went crazy, and Dreamer goes, can you come out at the end of my match and lay me out on a chair and split me open? I said, sure, if that's what you want, but I didn't wear anything. I split him open, crowd goes crazy, and Paulie goes, that's it, I gotta have you. I said, but I'm under contract with someone else. He goes, no, I gotta have you. And I said, well, what are we going to do? We talked it out. So Paul Lee hires me. Didn't like my dad. WWE, Vince wasn't doing it for my dad, not for my dad. WCW, when I went back, it was Bischoff, not my dad. TNA, Jeff Jarrett, definitely had nothing to do with my dad. And so I think it had to do with the fact that I must have some kind of talent somewhere, or at least hated enough that people like to use me,
What are your memories of your time in ECW?
Short. It was so brutally short. It was a weird deal, man. Like I said, went to talk to him. Dream was there. Dream's talking to him. I was just hanging out with Dusty because Dusty, I was helping train some of these guys at TCW. There was a startup promotion that Ted DiBiase was doing. WXO, I believe is the name of it. And I think that I just won the belt. They were doing all the TVs, and I won the belt. And it was last second. I didn't know they did old school. They called the finish in the ref called the finish in the ring, and I won it. So it took me by storm. And I had a deal with Ted DiBiase. So when I showed up and laid him out, what I was told by a very good source that was wrestling there that had a lot of pull, that Paulie loved it. He loved the heat. He loved the whole deal. He knew I'd go up to Philly and those places. They were going to hate me. It was great. Got the greatest compliments about the heat and all that. Went to the pay-per-view, and the next day was pay-per-view, and they were excited. And when I got there, Paulie goes, man, I don't know what to do now. He goes, I've always had all the ideas. I don't know what to do. Everybody in the back, the top 3 or 4 guys are vying. Every one of them want you to be their opponent. Sandman, Raven, Dreamer. And I'm dealing with some politics. See, I didn't know who owned what and who was paying. So I said, okay, well, when do you want me to come next? He told me. Of course, Spike Dudley, everyone goes and does the job for Spike, did it. You can see that on YouTube. It was a 4 or 5 minute rant between Polly and the guy that was managing me. But if you see the crowd, you can see how much heat. It was just incredible heat. It was awesome. It was fun. Had a good time with Polly. Some things happened because I'd structured my contract the way I knew to structure mine, doing business my way. So I don't know anyone else's, didn't ask anyone else's money. But I found out shortly after that some people might have found out about my contract and been a little bit upset about it because of what I asked for in it. I don't know if that makes sense. Without going into too much detail, all I'm saying is basically guaranteed monies, guaranteed classes on fairs, this, that, and the other, and paydays, whether I was wrestling there or not, because I did not want to fall into an issue that I'd heard. Polly would keep you, not pay you, work you for nothing, not pay you, this, that, and the other. And whether I like Polly and Polly like me, business is still business. So wrestled with him for a while, had a great time. He was, from what I heard, stiffing a lot of the undertalent. I said something about him stiffing the undertalent. And he said, no, there's a big transition of money, a fusion of money coming in from a back where everything will be taken care of. I said, okay, well then I'm good with it. And then I went and wrestled, and he stiffed me on my payday, on my weekly check. And so the next was a pay-per-view coming up. I said, fantastic, sounds great, send me the tickets, make it first class, make it Y-Fare, I'll be there. He goes, wow, you're killing me. Because I didn't ever ask him for it. I said, well, listen, I didn't get my check. I'm riding first class. He said, okay, I'll send it to you. He FedExed me the check. I went, cashed the check, and basically told him to stick the job up his ass. Because I don't have time, the way I was raised in business. You don't do business that way. You don't stiff people. If you want me, compensate me. If you don't want me, don't compensate me. I don't stand you up. I've never ever agreed on an amount of money, not done it, or not showed up. Ever, and I wouldn't expect anything else. And to this day, if I saw Paul Lee, I'm still his friend. I don't know if he likes me. He always has, he says. But business is business.
What do you remember about your time working for Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling? For anyone that doesn't know, that was Dusty Rhodes' promotion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big talk about plans for expansion and TV that never came to fruition. But what do you remember about that time?
It was a very fun time at the beginning because Dusty is, again, he's a brain. He's creativity. He's awesome. So to be around, it's always fun. It's neat. He had great plans. He had a great vision. I think that if he would have stuck to his vision, he confided in me a lot. We talked a lot. He thought that I had a very good mind from the business. And what threw me off is I remember that my dad didn't always go along with all his ideas but could see his creativity. And so I respected that when he didn't want to go along with my ideas. But still, I think that if he had listened to me in the long run, he would have done a lot better and or been successful. Because my idea was make your runs being the top. Because people are going to come out to see Dusty Rhodes. Okay? But Dusty's not going to go more than 4 or 5 minutes. His knees are bad. All he needs to do is let you get some heat, little comeback, pull on his trunk and give you the elbow and go home, and that's it. That's all we need to do. But you can't keep going to a town again and again and again, and those people go, oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, Dusty's going to come in, he's going to beat whoever he's wrestling, and it's only going to take about 2 minutes. Eventually people are going to say no. My idea was go run that route, show the people that. Now when you come back, at that time, pull back and say, the reason I built, because this is what he told me, the reason I built TCW was to show the talent. So wouldn't this make him a hero if he said, look, I am going to take myself off main event, still bringing the guys. Bring in your Bullet Bob Armstrongs, your Sabus, your Carinos. Do your thing, man. Barry Windhams, do your thing and have them in your matches. But do your matches before intermission. The match before intermission, which, that hurts so many people. I'm not saying that you deserve to be. I'm saying that why couldn't you do your 3-4 minute match before intermission, go back, throw your towel around your shoulder, come out, sign all the autographs what the people want. Now Dusty, then have your semi-main event. Then Dusty come out on the speaker and announce this tag team or this is the future. These are 2 of the best guys. I know they're going to be, at WCW, WWE, ECW very soon. Wow. Now all of a sudden he's basically, he's playing the king and donning people's crown. Now he gives those people credibility. He's giving the people what they want. They get to see Dusty wrestle. They get Dusty's autograph. But they also get the 12, 15, 20-minute match they want at the end. I just thought it would have been so much fun. He would have built stars. He would have built athletes. He would have built a following, but he didn't believe in that. And then it just got silly. It just got to the point where me and him, and that man is so important to me, and he's so important to our family, but on a business end, me and him were slamming heads. We were just slamming heads, and not me. When I say slamming heads, not me thinking I'm giving ideas. You know, some paydays got missed. You know, some things got done, and that was another one. And to this day, I don't know whether it was right or wrong, but I walked in and I had to tell him, this is not the way we're going to do business. So pay me my money today, or there's going to be an issue. He said, I don't have it. And I said, you find it? He said, I don't have it. I said, well, you better give me a bounce check and put it in my hand. I said, but you're going to hate life if I go and bounce this check at the bank. Now, again, I'm not saying it's the best way to do it. I probably was a little bit mad. And he gave me a check. It covered everything. When I got the check, I walked out and I said, get ready for someone to fill the main event, which I thought was great anyway. Let's push the kids up some, which I was trying to do anyway. Went and cashed the check. And Dusty called me. He said, did the check clear? I said, yes, sir. He goes, come back and see me. I said, okay. And I came back and he goes, I love you. I just think so much of you. I care about you. But because of the situation and you not trusting me that eventually you would get paid, then I can never use you again. I said, no problem. We shook hands and walked out. Because, see, he had his idea of this pay-per-view coming up. This big pay-per-view is going to pay everybody back. And I hate to say, in this business, I've seen that happen way too many times. Not just in my years, in past years with other promoters. I heard through the grapevine with my dad, you know? So, I mean, it's business is business, man. You know, and I hope Dusty still cares about me. Every time I see him, he hugs me. Dustin, you know, we're all good friends. So that's the way I'll leave that. But it's sad. I had some funny stuff happen, man. I mean, I showed up one time, and Dusty was going to do the same old match in Carrollton, Georgia. And I was like, dang, man, you know, because when you're fired up and you want to see things grow and happen, you know. So I stopped by Waffle House on the way and got a hat. And I went and stopped and got overalls that were camouflage overalls, okay? And so me and my partner got camouflage overalls. Here's Chad. Here's me, camouflage overalls. Dusty was looking like, what you put on your stuff? And I'm like, oh, no, this is it. No, put on your ring gear, you know? And I said, no, this is it. And he goes, put on the ring gear. I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm going to go cut a promo real quick first, you know? He said, but you're not wrestling in that. I said, you got it. I put on my Waffle House hat. I walked out there in camos, and I told the audience, I said, Carrollton, it's awesome. It's awesome to be here. I said, and as you all came to boo me and hate me, I so enjoy everybody being here and booing me and hating me. And I said, I just want to let you know, as you probably already know, Dusty Rhodes is going to win. I said, but I'm going to promise you one thing. I'm kicking his fat ass, covered, smothered, and chunked. I said, you toothless fat asses can understand it, and Lord knows that fat ass can understand it, so I'm going to give you an ass whooping Waffle House style tonight. People were pissed but laughing. And so I walked back. Dusty was irate. What are you doing? Da, 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 da. You're not going to do this. So I told him I was going to change. I didn't change. He went out, then I came back out, and I grabbed the mic on the way and I auctioned off the Waffle House hat and signed it before the match. And that was a pretty. He was pretty unhappy about it, but it got a lot of traffic and a lot of calls to TCW because of they finally got to see some. Dusty came in and did his thing, but he was agitated, and it was actually a good thing. I mean, we had a great match. It was a longer match. It was a fun match, and afterwards Dusty laughed about it, and we're cool. But some great things, some great athletes came out of there, and I had some fun times. I mean, those kids were like sponge, and Dusty ran it like an old school, like you paid your dues. Guys were putting the ring together, putting the chairs together, taking them down. So it was an old school feel. It was great, but it was one that wasn't ever going to take off because you didn't have the vision of you had to have someone at the top. And I wasn't saying me or anyone. I'm saying you had to have some youth at the top so people can come back.
So what circumstances led you to TNA?
Vince Russo. That's it. Vince. We're done with the interview, right? No. Vince Russo and I was. I explained earlier, through wrestling and all that other stuff. Thank goodness, my dad taught me a lot about saving my money, and I saw a lot of people that went through money and money and money. Some of your most famous people. I mean, it's not a secret. Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and so many guys that made so much money. Went through it. Therefore, at an early age, I was already going to financial meetings, 401ks, SEP plans, Roth IRAs, all kinds of stuff to learn. I had been blessed to save my monies and work. I worked in college, as much as I could. Scholarship, you can only work so much. So when I came out, I had 2 companies: Brush of Success, paint company, thank you Stone Cold, and Tubbs Tile and Turnkey is a turnkey company, and they were really doing great guns. And I got a call on my cell phone, and I really think it was Raven. I think Raven had talked to Vince and decided that I heard Vince Russo call me, and I hadn't talked to Vince Russo since WWE when he did the Techno Team 2000 magazine interview. And so basically what happened is I got a call from Vince Russo, hadn't talked to him since, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. He goes, "Erik, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm standing outside of Home Depot. What are you doing?" "Who is this?" He goes, "Vince Russo." He goes, we're really looking for a big guy that's wrestled that hasn't been on WWE or WCW as of late. And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Would you be interested?" I said, "I've never watched your show." I said, he goes, "Well, how much would you want?" I said, "Well, let me see if I want to be a part of it first." I said, "When's your next show?" He goes, "A Wednesday." And so I drove up, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe the athletes. I couldn't believe the everything, the energy. I loved it. That night, I called him on the way home. I said, "I want to be a part of it." I had no idea they were going to bring me in at the top. I had no idea there was, Jeff Jarrett against Jeff. So to answer the question, I got pulled in by Vince Russo for, they needed to feed somebody to Jeff. And they wanted a big guy that had wrestling experience, that would be recognized, but that had not been mainstream for a few years. And it worked out to be me. And I think Raven had a lot to do with that too, I'm guessing. Because Vince and Raven were close and they were brainstorming. So I'm guessing, but it was Vince Russo that brought me in.
What's your relationship like with Raven, and how helpful has he been to you over the years?
Raven has been tremendous because when I first broke in, I did a lot of wrestling with Scotty Flamingo. And then minus that, I did hang around. I asked him a lot of questions. I listened to him talk, even when people said he's obnoxious or he's this or he's that. Yes, I tease and I laugh about it, but he's a wealth of knowledge, so it's incredible. As far as what he didn't bring me into ECW, but when I was there, he was excited and wanted to be a piece of it. He wanted to do an angle with me. Then when I went to TNA, he was very excited, and when I was there, I rode up and down the road with him, Russo, and all the Atlanta boys, Disco Inferno and stuff like that. We had 6, 7 guys that would ride up together. So he was integral always with education, talking, and things like that. We always wanted to get together at TNA and have a match, but the crazy part of TNA and how it happened, I took off so fast. Well, at the beginning, came in like unbelievable. Then, from what I understand, Jeff had some ideas and tried to stymie me. And I said, "If you don't want me, I won't be here," to the person, Russo that came to talk to me. And they put me on the Explosion show. And they said, and I think the theory was that I'd walk away. And I would have walked away because, again, it's not pouting. If you don't want me here, I don't need to be here. I got other things to do. And Russo said, "No, don't do it." I said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" He goes, "Don't do it." I can tell you more about that later, but my point is, by the time I did 3 Explosions, I went from heel to so over in the building that, from what people tell me, I had the loudest reaction of any athlete there. I mean, someone told me the other day, even they thought that my reaction was louder than when Sting and Lex came out, which was a compliment. it was. I've never had reactions like. I mean, I've had reactions, good reactions. Don't get me wrong, but this was just like deafening. It was like crazy. A lot of times you'll see. That was one thing about TNA. It was so piss poor was the audio. I was like, what? How much does it cost to hang 10 mics from the ceiling? I mean, I know we can't have the old audio truck and all this other stuff, but how can you have such good matches, such good? And the people at home, you're watching TV, going, "Oh my God, that was cool." Why aren't the fans reacting? And inside, you couldn't hear them. So that's why you'd hear a lot of interviews, like me. You'd hear me hoarse because I couldn't hear myself talking. It was that loud, and I'm trying to yell so that the people can hear what I'm saying because I was doing a lot of punchlines and I didn't want to lose them. And then my wife would sit there and go, "Why are you getting hoarse all the time? Why are you hoarse?" I said, "Okay, I'm bringing TNA." And then when I brought her to TNA, she goes, "Oh my God, if TNA would have been able to bottle the sound, they would have never left Nashville. Ever. That whole we needed new identity, no." And I'll put it this way, one of the loudest reactions I've ever heard, Philly, ECW. Unbelievable, off the chain. Nashville was louder. Nashville, Tennessee, of all places. So to end the question, what you're saying is, when I was there with Raven, he was instrumental again, and it's weird how the circle turns, because the last match I had with TNA is Raven asking them, let me wrestle him. I want to put him over. It's bad that it sucks that I dislocated my shoulder in the first 15 seconds of the match because I couldn't do everything I wanted to do, and I couldn't do to it what I wanted to, but. And then things happened, which I need to leave. I need to go take care of some stuff with my kids and things like that. But the last match I have is Raven. You know, I mean, all the times we wanted to get, wrestle again. Once he thought I was, where I was at, he was excited. He wanted to do angles with me. And then the one angle we did was short-lived. Me, Dallas Page, and Raven, and that feud at TNA. I don't know if you caught the whole thing, but it was kind of cool. And then I beat him, and then I'm gone, which kind of sucked, because had I known I was leaving, I would have never done it. I fought not to beat him anyway, but that was just Raven's way of saying, "Man, you've made it, and I'm putting you over." So he's meant a lot to me.
What were your thoughts on the second generation stable?
Hated it. Thought it was retarded. I mean, not because of the second generation stable. It's just I didn't want to work with any of them. I mean, I think it's as plain as that. Who were the three guys in it? I don't even remember.
Brian Lawler, David Flair,
yeah,
and you.
Right, retard, idiot. And I don't mean it wrong. David Flair was getting beat up bad too because of who his dad was. It was just quieter because of who his dad was. I didn't feel it. I didn't really want to do it. Lawler, I think, is a heck of an athlete. He's insane. I like him to death. But I just said, why would you put me with these guys when the idea of the stable was great, but we had no chemistry, us three. I mean, it wasn't like we hung out. We didn't go drink beers. We didn't talk. We didn't, socialize with, NFL. We had nothing in common. Lawler was unbelievable by himself. Flair was doing his thing by himself, and I wanted, I enjoyed being by myself. So, idea great. Those three people, not great, and it has nothing to do with what people think of each wrestling skill. No one can knock Lawler for his wrestling ability. No one. They can take their shots at Flair, and they definitely take their shots at me. But there was just no chemistry.
Memories of your run as the director of Authority and the feud with Don Callis.
Incredible. It was just freaky. I mean, I could sit there and talk about that all day. Based on the fact that I come in, they have me beating Jeff's brains in, just beating him, and the fans were going crazy. I mean, crazy. Philadelphia booing, mad. I drugged the man in the parking lot. I beat him. I was haunting this person, haunting him, beating his brains out. The people were all over it, man. Vince was happy, everything like that. And let me tell you something. Whether people think I like Jeff or not like Jeff, he's a second generation. I like him because I understand him. I'm not saying I like him, all right? But I understand him, and I wish the best for him. You know what I'm saying? It's like second generation people. He is not a baby face. He's not a baby face. Not a baby face. Not a baby face. I don't care how accomplished he is. He's a great wrestler. I don't care who he is. He sucks as a babyface, has and will. The only thing over about that man ever was Road Dogg. That's the only thing that has ever been cool about his interviews or good about his interviews. Wrestle, he can wrestle with the best. Absolutely. Do a crappy heel promo? Absolutely. And people don't like him. They just don't like him. So why push it? It's like when I was at WCW. I begged to be, turn me heel. I'm not this guy in a leather jacket. You know, I'm your all-American kid. I'm da-da-da-da. You know, no matter what, you can beat me up as many times as you want. But the fight's not over till someone's dead. Rick Rude, you're not dead. Therefore, I'm going to keep coming. Because I drink my milk and I eat my Cheerios. And I can beat you up. I felt retarded. I was totally out of my skin. That wasn't me at college. That's never been me. It's just not me. But I was blessed to be in the scenario. Enough said. Just like when Rock first came out. Hated. Hated. I said, I can hardly wait till he turned heel. When he turned heel, it exploded. TNA, it was the same thing. They were pushing me heel. I loved being heel. I could have done it. And then some jerk off sits there wanting to say, oh, you know, I didn't know he was that tall. I didn't know he was that big. Oh, I don't think he's that good a wrestler. Oh, really? Well, then why did you bring me in? Why did you bring me in at the top? If I sucked, what part of the last 10 years could you not see whether I could wrestle or not? Why didn't I have a tryout match? Why did you spend all this time? I mean, do you have money to waste? No. Okay, so put me in Explosion. So when they did Explosion, I just became me. An arrogant, confident person. And I've, you know, had my own signs, Watts' World. I would do stuff. I would yell out stuff to the fans. The fans would get with it. I'd put someone in a headlock and bulldog them and run up the ropes and go for a bulldog and yell, Bulldog! And they'd go, Bulldog! Boom! You know, or I'd put them in the corner and go powerbomb and go, Powerbomb! Powerbomb them, you know. And the fans were going with it. They were chanting my name. They were Watts' World. If you go back, you can't hear much of the audio, but you'll see megawatts and what's up and what's happening and what's your problem and all that. That's stuff. And the fans felt it. Russo couldn't believe it. Jarrett was beside himself when he heard the reaction. He thought the pay-per-view was being introduced, you know, a few times from what I understand, and go, oh my God, I got to hurry up, I got to get ready, there goes the pay-per-view. No, that was Erik Watts' entrance to our show that's shown in about one town, Explosion. That's the guy that we're going to show that he can't wrestle. We're going to put him at the bottom here. You know, even though we're paying him, we got to put him at the bottom, you know. No, that's Erik Watts. Then I heard, why is our hottest guy not on the pay-per-view from someone else? Which pulled some strings. Not that I knew him, but the investors. Why is the hottest guy that we have on our show, our free show, that goes nowhere? So immediately, they put me back on. Okay? Well, when they did, Bischoff was getting the job at WWF. So I said to Russo, I said, dude, I think it'd be kind of funny. I said, let's say that Bischoff's coming here. He goes, I hate that. I ain't going to say, or maybe he didn't say, hey, we can't say Bischoff's coming. I said, sure we can. He goes, look, Watts, I want to come up with you something where you're on the mic all the time. And we can keep you away from Jeff. But you can still be a problem to him. I go, so I'm thinking manager? No, I'm not managing. You know, I'm not doing this. I said, well, I think that we should still push on the Bischoff deal. It'd be funny, you know? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I go, well, I want to sit there and say things like, you know, just I broke in people's interviews. They didn't even know I was breaking in. I had that much, Vince had that much fun with me. He'd sit there and see me and go, and someone would be doing an interview and go, I'd have my bags. I'd just drop them like, what do you want me to say? I'd walk in and just bust their interview and keep on going or do something. So I'd start feeling, did you hear Eric's coming? Eric's coming. And Goldilocks was kind of like a backstage, you know, interviewer caller at the time. She goes, what do you mean Eric's coming? I just want to let you know. I know him very well. He's very close to me. I talk to him almost every day. And when he comes, things are changing. But he's coming. She goes, you mean to tell me he's coming? And so then everyone started thinking, Bischoff, we're trying to pull a deal with Bischoff. And then that's how it happened. Finally, when they did, you know, Harley race and all that, and they were honoring, you know, NWA, Henri and Kid Cash comes out. Then I come out of nowhere, plant Kid Cash, introduce myself. Let me introduce myself. I'm Erik Watts, the director of Authority. And then people were like popping on it. And then it gave me an out. Now I'm the director of Authority, so I'm kind of the matchmaker and the pull. I get all the mic time I want, and they can still use me to wrestle. But the damn thing that happened was they didn't take me away from Jeff. And they needed to, because on the mic I was killing the man. Not verbally face to face, because that wouldn't even be fun. I mean, that's, taking Jeff on in an interview would be like a one man in a swim meet with Michael Phelps. I mean, it wouldn't even be funny, just go in circles like Jeff would. So, but point being is that it was killing Jeff because he had the stroke, he had ownership, and I'm killing him on interviews. I mean, I remember Jeff coming in, where's your interview at? They're handing them out. And I was just told to just say I lost mine or I threw it away already. So I'd say I threw it away. He goes, I don't care. I got a copy of it. And you didn't say any of it. And I go, well, I introduced that match. Well, yeah, that. And I go, well, I did say what's coming up. Well, yeah, you said that. And I said, well, I said there would be a stipulation change. Because, well, you said that, but everything else was completely different. And I go, I'm sorry. That's what my sheet said. No, it didn't say that. He'd be so mad. And it was just so much fun, but the people went freaking crazy, and odd things. Russo knew not to tell me anything. Russo taught me. He would sit there and go, okay, Erik, 2 minutes, go talk about something. What? 2 minutes now? He'd push me off the thing, like, what? And I'd walk out with the mic not knowing what I'm saying. Prime example, Raven. Raven was in his little Raven's lair or whatever the hell he called it, And Russo goes, hey, listen, we're getting ready to go into a Raven segment on an interview. Just go interrupt him. Now, here's the scary part. Raven can't hear. He's just waiting for the interview, live, pay-per-view, to come in and start, and where he starts is, Raven, da-da-da-da. So I'm sitting there going, you didn't say anything. He goes, just bust in on him. Just miss on 10, 9. Now, I don't know what to do. I'm like, oh, God, So I'm there in the camera. And I was looking at me, and I go, shh, be very quiet. I'm hunting a waving. And then I open the door, and thank God he boots me and DDTs my brains out on a chair. And he hits, and then he does his interview, and I'm just laying down. And when he cut, he started busting out laughing. But he was so mad. He goes, dude, I heard you outside the door. I was laughing. Oh, my God, I can't believe they did that to me. You walked in. Russo used to tell me all the time. He goes, Watts, when we do the interview, just don't look me in the face. Don't look me in the face, or I will bust. I'll come out of character. I'll bust out laughing. You kill me. Because I would say the most retarded things. I would say the most... Dude, we were doing an AJ Styles interview with Jeff Jarrett. And I said there... He said, just go bust on them. They're going to go take a vacation, supposedly, and just go bust on their vacation. So I did this whole dramatic thing going, you know what, AJ, you deserve it. You deserve a vacation, and so do you. And it was with Russo. I said, so do you, Russo. I said, you guys are going to go out to Florida. It's going to be wonderful. You deserve the vacation. I said, and I can just see it now because I've checked with people. I mean, overlooking the beach in that one-bedroom condo. You guys just holding each other right after you play hide the pee-pee. Who says hide the pee-pee? I mean, this is ridiculous. And all this response comes to TNA. Oh my God, it's so funny. People were logging on. Who did Elmer Fudd? Erik Watts just did Elmer Fudd looking for Raven, hunting for Raven. Yeah. So the odd things that came out, like Jeff. Jeff blew a gasket. They said, just go bust on Jeff. And I was out there. And I was like, coming through the crowd. I said, Jeff, Double J is just so like 90-ish. I said, we're in the 2000, bro. We got to come on up. I mean, I know you lost your dog. I said, I know, you lost your dog. So we need to bring you forward. Let's bring you forward, because all the cool people today, if they're gonna have initials, they have 3 initials. Well, triple initials. Let's not go there, but triple initials is what we need to do, because the other big guy over there, that's what he does. So from now on, we're going to call you Triple J. You're Jeff the Jack. And I stopped and I put the thing like this, and the audience goes, ass Jarrett. I'm not sure if I've ever seen him so mad. From that point on, Jeff the Jackass Jarrett. People, jackass, jackass, jackass. he did, and here's, baby facing it. He didn't know what to do, what to say. But the bad thing about it is I didn't know where it came from. I'm just me. I'm having fun. The people responded. The people liked it. Some people couldn't handle it. The sad thing about it is the people that I was working with forgot it was a work and took it as a shoot, and I got upset. But the TNA run was off the chain. I mean, you can go back. I don't care who you talk to. I was probably in more segments than anyone during that span. I was in more of your more important. And then they try to pull a hose job on me with Don Callis. And what they don't know is I've known Don Callis since WWE. And Don Callis was sitting there going, bro, I haven't wrestled in I don't know how long. I can't go. We had like a 20-minute match. I can't go 20. What is this bullshit? He goes, I just gave my notice. I said, you gave your notice? He goes, yeah, I'm leaving. I go, you're leaving? And he goes, yeah. I go, and I'm wrestling you. And he goes, yeah. And I go, well, what good is that? Why are we just now building up to this and you're leaving? And so then we go get the finish, and they go, oh, and Callis is going, you need to put Callis over. And so in my mind, I'm sitting there going, let's see, old school is that you lose on your way out, I thought. So I'm sitting there going, oh, this is a mega rib. And Callis did too. He goes, this is a rib, dude. He goes, I can't go 20 minutes. I haven't worked out. I haven't wrestled. I haven't done nothing. And I'm beating you? This is a rib, bro. Main event. So could you kind of see who's orchestrating this? If we're going to make someone look bad, why don't we put a main event? Let's build a pay-per-view around him. We don't think Erik can work real well, supposedly. Jeff. And we're going to put him with Don Callis that doesn't want to work, nor hasn't in a long time, and he's leaving, and we're going to put him over. And I still get probably top 10 responses is people saying about the Don Callis match. Phenomenal match. Excellent match. Oh my God, it was so... blah, 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 blah. So I am inside. I love it because Callis is cool as heck. He's a great guy. And even a match that we didn't think would go over well went over. Unbelievable. Main event. I lost to him just like I was supposed to. And I think that it kind of hurt TNA some because they had this director of authority that could live on. But I knew I was going to be edged out because there was someone else there that wanted to be director of authority that didn't want to wrestle so much. And he ended up becoming the director of authority. So, and he told me, he goes, Dusty told me one time in the back, he goes, baby, I want to thank you. I go, why? He goes, because you just showed me my next gimmick. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, the director of authority thing's great. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, oh, I'm just kidding. 3 or 4 months later, I was losing out, and Dusty became director of authority. Which, I don't care. That's the business. Doesn't matter to me. I think they lost out some, because I get messages all the time. Even this day, I think they're doing a gimmick where they're bringing in different people vying for the ownership, and they're like, you'd be perfect. Why don't we bring in the director of authority? They got all the footage on you. They've got all this funny stuff. They could bring you in. And I just said it's not going to happen. I don't think with the ownership being where it is, that it would.
Want to ask you about kind of the word association again about some other people whose paths you crossed in TNA. Disco Inferno.
Glenn's the man. He's hilarious. He's funny. Unbelievable worker. I used to tease him because he knows the words to every song. There's not a song he doesn't know. And I mean, me and Sting, all the guys, we used to play song like roulette. You'd hit a station, and you had like 5 seconds when it hit the station to name either the song, the artist, or sing 10 seconds of the lyrics. And Sting was good, but no one could be Disco. And what Disco is, he was so good he could take a modern song, sing the words, and I mean horrible. He sounded like nails on a chalkboard. And then, if you want to, you could change the beat. He could do it to a different rhythm, like another song, and sing those words. It was hilarious. And I said, that's it. I got your new gimmick. Is what I want you to be Kid Karaoke, and come out, and do like a karaoke gimmick where you're singing. It was hilarious. But he's a great worker. I know he had a lot of back problems. I mean, that's the only bad thing is when he was working, you could tell. And the other thing too is I felt bad for him too because when they tried to do the, Glenn Gilberti and make him a tough guy, it's a lot of times you mirror something that's in your life is the best. Like Bill Goldberg, in his mind, in his soul, thinks he's an animal. In his mind, in his soul. Okay, hell, he knocked himself out half the time he speared people. Glenn is the furthest thing from a tough guy in the world. Furthest guy, and that's what makes him nice. Just easygoing guy. Why would you sit there and push him down his throat? He's a killer. Why would you take him away from Disco Inferno? Disco was hilarious. Just keep him there, you know. He's WCW's doink. Okay, just let him be what he wants to be, you know. So, but Glenn's a great hand, great person, and that's really all I got to say about that.
AJ Styles.
The phenomenal one, and he is. I thought that I really thought AJ would run his contract and jump ship, and I think he, if he did at the right time, you know, like when Benoit and Malenko and Ray and Guerrero, and when they were first going to the smaller compact athletes as world champions and things, CM Punk. The matches these guys could have together would just be freaky, and the world hasn't seen AJ Styles, and the world needs to see AJ. You know, he's not as fit as he used to be looking, you know, which is kind of wild because he's always really, really toned and things, but I don't think he's lost his step. I mean, he did some moves, and I've seen a lot of wrestling in my life. He did some moves in TNA that I've never seen, nor would I ever try. I mean, he pushed the ring in, he put the barricade in one time, threw Jeff Jarrett out. About the second, third row, Jeff knocked the seats down. He pushed the barricade in. He ran. He hit the ropes. He jumped from the middle of the ring, no hands. Hit the top rope. Did a 1.5 gainer out into the audience on top of Jeff Jarrett. I've never seen it. Never even thought anyone would do it. And the way he attacks the ring with his, you hit him on the apron and he hits as hard as he can. I said, how do you not get killed? He goes, I think because I go with so much velocity that I think that's the only thing that saves me. I'm thinking, I hate to be your doctor here in about 10 years, but he's incredible. And he's got psychology. He's a madman. You know, he's a madman. But I think he has a lot of grit because I think his word is his bond. And I think he also remembers the people that got him where he's at. And I think that all the people that he's ever been with, he'll always go back and wrestle for. And I think he thinks TNA put him on the map, which they did. And I think that's why he stays. Which, you know what? In this business, the sad thing about it is, good for you, great. No one's going to remember that. And I hate it for you. You got to think about your family. You got to do what you do. Don't screw anyone over, but come on. If it's time to go to the big top, go.
Dutch Mantel.
Dutch is a genius, and someone said that he just got let go from TNA. And I had fond memories of him. You know, he was a booker of my dad's for a short period, and I used to watch him wrestle all the time. I was going to go do a stint, I think, in Puerto Rico when he was booking, but didn't. Don't have anything real good to say, not bad to say. He was a good. I know he was a good hard worker with my dad, and I know he has some great creative ideas. But I haven't talked to him in 5-6 years, so you know, it's a pretty basic relationship, but a lot of respect.
Want to touch on a couple other names, kind of more from the past that haven't been brought up yet in the interview for whatever reason, and just get their thoughts, your thoughts on them rather. First off, Jim Ross.
Well, I mean, I'll probably get heat for this one, but Jim's like my uncle. You know, I mean, he's my uncle. You know, he used to come home on the way home, always stop in the office. You know, my dad would be there, my older brother, Jim Ross. And, you know, just imagining out of this office, this unbelievable show was going on, Mid-South Universal Wrestling Federation. You know, asking if anyone needed to eat or how you doing. Jim's a sports fanatic. He always knew all the scores, stats, highlights of my games. He was the nicest guy in the world. And he was a tough cookie, man, because my dad was not easy. And I know Jim just pulled his hair out being around him. But, you know, Jim wanted that worse than anybody because he knew, man, I don't care how hard you are, it's just going to make me a better person. And I think that he took the coaching to the next level because I think he is the best announcer in the game. Maybe known as one of the best, if not the best announcers always. And, you know, when I was at WCW, I had set my wedding dates a year prior. And before I was wrestling or so, and so a pay-per-view was on that date. And so my dad said, you know, you can't do it. You got to switch it to the next weekend. And I said, okay. We already had the invitations and everything, you know. So we switched it, and even in the busy schedule, little town, Williston, South Carolina. I mean, just a podunk town my wife was from and her family was from, in a small church. I'm at the church and went the night before and did all the wedding stuff and everything like that. But prior to me saying I do, my dad slipped in and Jim Ross slipped in, sat in the back, and saw me get married. So It's cool.
Dick Murdoch.
Dirty Dick Murdoch is amazing. Will always be amazing to me. Like you're saying, like second generation. There was a time I went and ran some indie shows, and he was there, and he just took me under his wing, and when he started talking to me, it was almost like he was talking to my dad again or something. We just had this mesh, and he had this love, and the last time I saw him, I think we did a show somewhere on an Indian reservation together, and he said, "This is the greatest world. This is the greatest world. Where else can you put a nickel in a machine, pull the handle, and get free beer? This is the greatest thing in the world." He goes, "Man, how many nickels you got?" He goes, "Because I ain't dumb like everyone else. I'm not going to move up to the quarters." I'm thinking, okay, they got blackjack. They got everything. He said, "Nickels, this is the greatest thing." Then he did the old Dirty Dick Murdoch and had his glass out and took his teeth out and had him in his drink and was drinking. And actually, he'd asked me, he said, "You know what? You were just got out of Germany and you were in Minnesota to wrestle. And there's a guy that made up a rumor that he beat you up." And he goes, "I know that no one whooped your ass." And I go, "Well, hey, everyone can, whip somebody, and all that." I said, "Who was it?" And he told me. I go, "Oh, really?" And then he goes, "Yeah, and I know that there's no way." And I go, "Well, how do you know no way?" And he goes, "Well, he was telling me the story supposedly a day after it happened, and there wasn't a mark on him." I said, "Well, okay." He said, "Would you promise me this day that you'll take care of that shit? Because if you don't, I will." And he said, "Because no one talked." And I told him, "Shut your mouth," and shut him up. Can't tell you the person's name. I did take care of it, but that was the brotherhood. He stopped the guy from saying what he said, and he goes, "I know you're full of shit. You're trying to ride on the Watts name." Not that beating up Erik Watts would have got him a fortune. This kid was being smart, saying, "I beat Bill Watts' kid up." He was running around in an indie show around Texas, something saying that. And out of nowhere, a person like Dick Murdoch said, "You know what? Unless you want to try me, I'd shut your mouth." And then he allowed me to take care of it, which I did.
Junkyard Dog.
Everything in the world to me. He gave me my first nickname, Slick Slim. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's perplexing how awesome he was, how nice he was, and how funny he was in the back because he was he was a main stable draw for a long time, and he was so funny, and he would get the guys riled up and back because everyone called my dad the Hat. And so when my dad go, "Ooh, the hat's here, the hat's here," and then he'd start talking, he'd go, "You better watch out. I'm not going to tell anybody, but if the Hat knew what you did the other night," and he'd start stirring the water, and then he goes, I don't want to stir nothing because, I don't want to make Dad mad. I don't want to make the Hat mad, He goes, "Remember, I'm your 5-6 minute guy. That's all I'm supposed to go." So he would flaunt the fact that he knew he was successful. He did it in a way where people knew he was just teasing. And there was jealousy, but Dog also let it be known that he was worth his weight. He could hold his own, and you guys chill out. He gave me his boots the day before he went on the trip in which he died, and he actually died in the Mercedes my dad had given him back in '84 as a bonus on top of his contract, and he called it Betsy. Betsy takes me everywhere I need to go, man, Betsy. So I just remember a big smile, a deep, gravelly voice, always happy, that bow, the pigeon-toed walk, and just how awesome it was. I also remember, which is mind-boggling, the racial or the color boundaries that were being busted in Louisiana, and seeing how crazy and how well he took it. Because I was on some road trips in which things were said that were so unbelievably wrong, and he just blew it off. I mean, I was in a dressing room with him, Ron Simmons, and maybe Butch Reed, I can't remember, and we were in a town, and the sheriff came in and said, "Who brought the ends?" And just said it. And I go, it just blew me away because I'm thinking, oh, these three guys are going to kill him, whether he's got a gun or not. But I was ticked, so I'd go to stand up. And boss? You mean us, boss? And I'm looking because I'm just like frustrated, but is this guy going to pull the gun, or are we going to kill him? What are we going to do? And he goes, "What you need, boss?" He goes, "I need you guys out as soon as you're done wrestling. Who you with?" He goes, "Oh, boss, this is our master, boss." just giving the guy heck, and the guy goes, but this guy's so retarded, sheriff, he goes, okay, come here. And he asked me to come up, he goes, is there any way I can get pictures for my kids and autographed by them? And I said, are you kidding me? And he goes, no, my kids love wrestling. I sat there and looked at Dog, and Dog goes, I go, shouldn't be a problem. Dog had me go out, get the pictures, they signed them, hand them back. He goes, you can't fix stupid, Eric. He's just an ignorant person. And when the day's over, you know who they're cheering? They're cheering those 3 black guys and hating their own father. He said, don't let that get you. He taught me a lot of stuff. Ernie Ladd did too. And just seeing the friendship between my dad and Ernie Ladd. And not to make this about, issues like that, but when you say Junkyard Dog, he was so much more than just a friend or a person to me. I mean, how cool is it when you're 14 years old to have a nickname, He used to say on TV, Tulsa, I'm coming, because Slick Slim's going to be there. I'm like, it didn't hit me till later on. No one knows who the hell Slick Slim is. He could have said, Jim Bob Jones is going to be there, but I thought, every time he was talking about me, and like I told you guys earlier, is the funniest thing about it is, to this day, all the guys from Mid-South and Universal Wrestling Federation, when they see me, hey, Slick, what's up, Slick? What's up, Slick Slim? So it sticks with me, and it's a great, great memory, and those boots mean a lot to me. I've had a lot of people ask me that have heard certain things about, do I have the boots, trying to offer to sell them, but those will never be for sale, never need to, because that's just a part of my memories, childhood, and part of my life that I'll always want to keep.
Next name on the list, Ernie Ladd.
Big Cat, again, that's, the sad thing about it is there's probably a lot of things that reflect if people have ever asked my dad questions, but you take a man that his stories, my dad's best friend, and the stories I heard, goes to Grambling on a college scholarship. The football coach finds him and says, son, it looks like they're starving you. I mean, he was a beast. Gave him the keys to the cafeteria. He gained 60 pounds. Off season, the coach says, we don't need you anymore. He was a star player because he was mad. And the football coach says, well, we'll take you. That's how he switched from basketball to football. Goes to the NFL. Was put in the NFL Hall of Fame. Had, I don't know, he had over like 27, 28 knee surgeries. Would go out every night. He knew how to cool my dad down. He knew how to keep him level. He had so much wisdom, so much everything. He was an incredible, incredible athlete. And one of the funniest stories that I remember about him is just some of the fun. Well, there's many funny stories, but we went to go pick him and his wife up, and before the Superdome, my dad pulls up, and with a Lincoln and says, all right, and I knew my job. Get out, say hello, get the bags, put the bags in, open the door for the wife, open the door for Big Cat. I sit in the back, we roll. And so I went and opened the door, and Cat goes, nope. I go, okay, so I'm going to open the door for his wife. The wife sits in, my dad's sitting in, my dad's rushing. Our Superdome was our WrestleMania. So, there's a lot on his mind, things are going on, he wants to talk, So Cat gets in. I get in the back of my dad. I can just see him fuming. Son, what? What? Nope. Cat just, no. He said, Bill, just a second. He looks back at his wife and goes, honey, I told you. When I make it, and when I make it big, I'm going to hire the big, fattest white dude to drive us to the show. Go on, Bill. Let's go. Oh, it was priceless. I was like, yeah. So, just things like that were so funny, man. He did so much. I can't go on, but as you guys have heard, it was hard for the family, but most of my father when he passed away. It was serious, but I don't know if people to this day can ever truly understand. They'll say the name, but they need to go see the footage. But more than the footage, they need to do some, if they really care about the business, they should do some research on this guy because, how many wrestlers do we have that were actually Hall of Fame football players? He did 2 careers, brutal careers.
Your dad has such a stigma and such a reputation as being, that guy, Bill Watts, would come in here and clean this place up. Is there anyone in wrestling today, currently involved in wrestling, or in the last few years, who really reminds you of your dad? If someone, for instance, won the lottery and said, I'm going to start a wrestling promotion, but I want someone here who would run it just like Bill Watts would, who would you suggest, if anybody?
Run it just like Bill Watts. Again, hold on to that, because that'd be like, I can't stand people that try to. You can't make another Hulk, of course. I can't stand once they did the Goldberg streak. Stop the streaks. We know the 100, win streak and all this other stuff. Don't do it again. I'm not saying that no one can. I mean, I think Austin was much bigger than Goldberg, and I think he even broke merchandising records, and Rock too. So there's people that are always going to be compatible, and there's always going to be someone that's going to come around and be better, right? Kobe Bryant or LeBron to Jordan, not there yet, but will be. When you say, I just don't know anyone that has the attributes and everything for it, and how are you going to replace someone that can't ever get the education that he had or the sight he had? Because wrestling as he knew it is gone. You could never take anyone to give them that capsule of information to have the respect, not just the respect, but the ideas and the genius. So we're at kind of a loss. It's not like basketball. Can you find someone better, smarter, faster, hand-eye coordination? Well, that's something that you're born with and can achieve. Where's the school in which we're going to give someone those tools? That's the problem. So in my mind, as soon as you say that, I'm just trying to search the guys that are still in the business that may understand where he came from and why he thinks as fast as he thinks and why he thinks of the credible ideas and his openness. But no, it's tough. I don't know someone, and I'm not trying to put him on a pedestal like, oh, he's the greatest thing in the world. I'm a fan of his. Okay, I'm a little jaded. I'm a Watts, and like I told you, if you think he's tough on the road, you should see him at home. But the genius and the thought process, no, I don't. And I promise you, I wish I did. I wish that there was someone in which had his smarts, ideas, knowledge that could get along, that could do their own federation, and or that could put down their guns long enough to get along with Vince. Because like my dad and Vince are geniuses together. It's just that my dad knows that my dad walks around like he owns his own company, and Vince owns his own company. So those two are not going to work. They respect each other a terrible amount. But like if my dad, I'm not bashing anything. I'm just saying if you could take someone like that, I think that genius would be played out, and it would play out at WWE, and things would. I think you would see an all new WWE, because some people go, there's an element missing. There's something missing. There's, like my dad, he's Dr. Fix-It. What people don't understand is wrestling so much further than it used to be. It's a phenomenal. What Vince is producing is phenomenal. But the few missing ingredients, he could add to it. It's just that the oil and water don't mix. They don't mix. So he could fix it. Yes, he could fix it. Who's going to do that now? I don't know. Because I don't know. It's almost like unless someone opens their own federation and has his smarts, it's never going to happen, because no one is strong enough mentally to go to Vince and say, no, this is the way it's done. Because if no one does that, it's still going to be Vince. You're still going to get the same production. Okay? So Vince is taking it further than anyone else is taking it, but at the same time, he's always going to do it Vince's way. So the next question is where will we have that person to even win the lottery? Yes. You have to have the right territory, the right town, the right athletes. Another problem is most every athlete with any history behind them is either under contract with TNA or WWE. So I know I'm going around this, but I think I'm circling because I really don't have. I'm void when it comes to who could be another Bill Watts, and I really wish that I could answer that. I don't.
So if that management style, we'll call it, if there's no one around that can do that,
right, then
how do you change the product? How do you fix the elements that are missing?
Well, sometimes, the world and nature has a weird way of fixing itself. One is it's going to have to be a TNA or someone else that starts a federation to challenge Vince enough in order for him to be more creative. And I'm not saying creative. I mean, like Vince, he's expanding so much into movies and so many things that. Prime example. Remember when Nitro Wars with Raw? You know, all of a sudden those guys got so interested in each other's product that both products just stepped up in a big way. They stepped up in a big way, and Vince started doing things that he didn't normally do. Bischoff was doing things that WCW didn't normally do, and so it kind of fixed it. Nature had a way of fixing itself. I think, you know, competition breeds success. You know, I don't know if you know this, but, you know, a long time ago, McDonald's used to do a survey, and their surveys were on traffic counts, incomes, disposable income, so forth and so on. And what they would do for a franchise is you had to have so much of a traffic count with so much disposable income and no other restaurant chain on a corner in order to open McDonald's. And then they found out later on that what happens is people get interested in things. If we want to go shopping, where do they go? Most of the time, a mall. If people want to eat, they go to where they know there's several food choices, because it is a proven study fact that 9 out of 10 people sometimes will go in this direction knowing that they want to eat, but not what they're going to eat. So McDonald's totally crushed that whole thing. Now they have, for the most part, traffic counts, disposable income, and there must be at least 2 other restaurants there. Okay? So you're going there. Why I'm saying this, competition breeds success. Vince has no competition. He just has nothing. So he can do what he wants and still be happy as long as he's making the stockholders happy, and he is growing. But he doesn't have to grow in wrestling because he's growing in so many different, he has so many profit centers. Does that make sense to you? So what I'm getting at is that until someone comes up and pushes his buttons, then unless someone is hailed King Ding Dong with the booking and has a lot of great ideas, then it's not going to happen.
Talking about WWE and recent experiences, what were your thoughts on going to the Hall of Fame this year?
Loved it. Unbelievable. And more for more than one reason. I mean, my son and my daughter haven't really seen my dad. Or don't, when they saw him, don't remember him because Oklahoma, Atlanta, going on. So my kids love wrestling, which I don't want them to love it enough to go into it, but they love it, respect it, and are around it. They watch it. They know who their father is. They know who their grandfather is. So how crazy is it in order to take your kids, that's the first mainstream wrestling that they've been to, because I didn't let them go to much of my stuff, and to make it the biggest event in the world, Wrestling 25, with that many people, and they get to go and see their grandfather inducted. They get to see their dad intermingling with all the people that they, they're superstars, their favorites. Plus they're like, oh my God, it was incredible. Plus hanging out with my dad. My sister was there, so the experience and the time there, I couldn't judge it as how did you like that pay-per-view, because that experience could never happen at another pay-per-view because of everything that was combined. I mean, I guess the only other thing is that if I fell, hit my head, learned how to work, started wrestling for Vince, and someday did something so great that I was being inducted in the Hall of Fame, could it be ever better to go? But minus that, it was just a very special. And what was cool is like little stuff, like I told you, Andre the Giant went to show and tell with me. And then I got a picture of, Andre the Giant holding me, my brother, my sister up on his arms. And so then I made sure that Paul White, which is a great guy, came up and held my kids. Now, he didn't hold them up, but he put his arms around them. And so at my house, we've got a picture of me and Andre the Giant from back in the 70s, 80s. And I got a picture of my kids with Big Show. So it's kind of cool.
Overall, how satisfied are you with your career?
Satisfied. Thank God that the TNA thing happened. I dig the fact that I went and did a tryout with WWE. A lot of things make me happy, because I know personally that I believe that I proved that it wasn't a golden spoon, a daddy's boy situation. And if people really reflect on my career, that just added to the that just made it harder to be successful, which I think I was successful. I think I was successful at it. So it added, where most people can't even make it into wrestling, I made it to wrestling and did pretty well for myself and was criticized so heavily. So that's awesome. TNA meant a lot to me because ECW allowed me to get on the mic, which showed me the other dynamic I always wanted to do. Vince Russo allowed me to carry that out. I went as a heel. I got told to basically go to the bottom of the deck. I stuck it out because Vince asked me to stay because he thought things would change. I believed in him, trusted him, which would have been easier to walk away. And the fans made me their favorite. That meant a lot to me. And there's a little federation called GCW, the same thing. I went there after TNA, and the fans went crazy. That's enough to tell me that, yes, I can work. Yes, I am good. Yes, I can entertain the people. I can tell a story. That means a lot to me. Do I think that when I was setting my goals that I'd gone through all 5 of the major federations and not been a main staple name? That bothers me. I wish I could have been a name and still doing it and still strong, but it just wasn't meant. I mean, I had a lot of major, I burst my esophagus, I blew my knee, and that's a lot of things that other people don't know. A lot of these changes, like WWE, one of the things when I was on the shelf, I was nursing a knee, an ACL. So am I happy? I'm content because I don't ever look back and go, oh, I shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that. I'm very happy. Some of me wish that with what I know today and the way I know how to control a crowd and what I know how to get reactions, could I go out there and make my presence known and entertain the people? Yes. Will I have the chance to do that? I don't think so. And I don't know if I have the energy to care. Therefore, I'm happy. Because I'm going to be happy no matter what. I'm that person. I'm going to be happy no matter what. It's just that maybe if I didn't have to fight all the BS, all the politics, all the stuff, and I could go out there and let it loose, I would like to entertain the fans. Not as Erik Watts, as a character, and have fun. But if I don't get to do that before I die, I can promise you there's so many more things that I'm focused on and doing right now that it wouldn't affect me.
Anything in closing that you'd like to say to the fans, maybe you never had the chance to before, or how you'd like to be remembered, or anything that you'd like to sum up in closing?
Well, I think the easiest thing to do is don't, as fans we should know this, don't believe everything you read. It cracks me up, when you see people who say, hey, you're from Amarillo, Texas. I'm not from Amarillo, Texas. People thought I was from Amarillo, Texas for one reason. I was in Amarillo, Texas. Main eventers didn't show up. Me and Dustin, I think, were supposed to wrestle the Hollywood Blondes. Didn't show up. Semi-main event. Didn't show up. And Dusty, real quick thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Sting, paint Eric's face, put some paint on his jeans. Erik, you're going to go out and you're going to wrestle, and you're going to be a heel against Dustin. And let's see, your name's going to be, we're in Amarillo, baby, Amarillo Slim. One night I wrestled as a guy named Amarillo Slim, which as soon as I walked out they knew who I was. But it was funny. And from that day on, I was born in Amarillo. I've had 2 wives, I've got 4 kids, blah, blah, blah. Don't believe the hype, don't believe the press, don't believe everything you say. I have an OD, not dead, didn't try to kill myself. I mean, all things that are on the internet, out the internet. And those things were funny because they affect your job process too. People think that, oh, no, that doesn't. Well, you can't believe it, and don't believe it. Other than that, as fans, the people are fans that enjoyed me. I appreciate it. The fans that didn't enjoy me, I appreciate it. But I'm a motivated person. All I can really say about the whole thing is that I don't know if I'm done wrestling, and I think I have a lot to offer it. Just stay tuned. I mean, I know it's a corny thing, but it's kind of like a stay tuned thing because I don't want to act like it's a signing off or anything that I want to clarify. Why clarify? I don't know why clarify. Hey, just a second. What I want to do is cut that part.
Okay.
Not cut it, but let me try to re-answer it in a better way because that was a roundabout. Motherfucker, what I'd like to tell the fans is we need some AC up in this bitch. what I need to tell the fans is my pecker is medium well because I'm smoldering in this place that High Spots has me in. You thought I had heat, brother? Woo! No, just kidding.
Roasting chestnuts.
No bloopers. Michael, no bloopers with that one. Okay. Anything to tell the fans? Okay. Basically, there's not much to tell the fans other than I appreciate all of them. The ones that dislike me, the ones that like me. I just appreciate them being fans. I appreciate the sport. And without the fans, we have nothing. Zero, zip, nothing. And for those that you like me, you may see me again. And those who hate me, don't have nightmares, because I may be back.
Erik Watts, thank you very much for sharing your viewpoints and your insights. It's been our pleasure.
Thanks.